listening to Spaceboy music.
And now, here's a
Blast from the past.
I'm sure you might have that information, do you?
I don't have that information because as much as I enjoy this subject, I'm between loads of laundry, so I don't have a lot of time.
Hey, Surlana, if they want to become a friend of the show on Facebook, what do they need to do?
Well, I mean, they're going to have to pass a few tests. We're thinking about enforcing that, that American Ninja Warrior thing. That might be a good one to see who's really worthy and really wants it bad enough.
I turn to you, Surlana, and ask you, how does it look out there? Are we actually getting people listening compared to last year?
Well, last year when we had no such thing as a webcast, when no one was listening.
What I meant was...
So things are looking up.
Surlana, would you like to start off by saying a few words to kick us off, or
like, dear Lord, please bless this webcast that kind of words, or
it means love when your wife turns over in bed and she looks at you and she says, "You know what? I just want to punch you in the face."
I just want to punch you in the face.
Just because you're just so good looking.
If you do not call in within the next 2 minutes, I'm going to talk about cultural imperialism theory. 713-701-5214, or I'm going to talk about theory. Yes, call in with your favorite pie recipe. We'll put it on the internet. And apparently Spaceboy doesn't like my diet iced tea.
Oh, that is
I'm not crazy
nasty.
about it. It's not what I thought it was going to be either. But life is full of disappointments.
That's like finding leaves on the ground in a puddle and then boiled to make some kind of drink that.
Yeah, that's their new fall line: boiled leaves in a puddle.
Well, I mean, that's exactly how. I mean, I love tea, but that was just nasty. E.T. The extraterrestrial.
God, no!
Where did that come from? I must be thinking of.
I'm gonna say it. E.T. the extra testicle.
I did not mean that. I think our audience knows better than that. I think it just didn't come across correctly.
I don't feel well.
In fact, I've heard that they want to use the voice of. Why do I always get a brain fart when I'm like right on?
Because you're under pressure, and you're live, and there could be lots of people listening.
Who did Willy Wonka? Gene Hackman? No, not Gene Hackman.
Oh my gosh! I would pay money to see Gene Hackman as Willy Wonka.
Wrong Gene. Anyway,
somebody call Hollywood.
So Gene.
Oh my God!
Is it Gene Wild?
Gene Hackman.
Gene Wild. Hey, tune in here.
Wait, no, I want to write this down.
Gene Wilder? Is it Wild?
Yes,
there.
dear.
Minutes, 21 seconds. 5-second tone followed by a 1-second pause.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Okay, gang, let's go.
from the space city called Houston, Texas. Welcome to Spaceboy Universe, featuring Spaceboy and the lovely Surlana. So strap in and prepare for launch sequence. And remember, it's Spaceboy's universe, and you're in it.
Wrong bumper, but greetings and salutations. I am Spaceboy.
Oh, I'm sorry, that threw me off. I'm Surlana.
And this, believe it or not, is Spaceboy Universe. It is October 15th, 2016, and tonight's special guest is Joe Grissafi, and possibly take your calls if you're nice Space Cadets. As always, you can follow us on Twitter, that's at the SB Universe, and follow Surlana at Surlana, and you can follow your lovable Spaceboy at Spaceboy Music.
Remember to hashtag your tweets. Sorry, with hashtag SB Universe and hashtag Space Cadets.
Because we know hashtagging is so funny. Hang out with all the Space Cadets by going to spaceboyuniverse.com, click the dancing chat bubble and the player, and that will get you in with all the cool kids.
In addition to Twitter, you can find the universe on Facebook, Tumblr, SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Just search for Spaceboy Universe.
Speaking of Laughing Universe, you could, I guess YouTube that is, you can find more than the Spaceboy Universe of archive of shows. The video content there will be like stuff from music, video. Man,
It's going to be one of those nights.
It's going to be one of those nights. Video interviews and 2-bit gamers and so much more.
And if you can't catch the show live, that's not a problem. You can take the universe with you on the go via Spreaker, SoundCloud, and iTunes.
Because, boy, do we love broadcasting. You know, that's the last time that I play Blast from the Past before the show starts.
Okay.
And then the fact that I just picked the wrong bumper music.
I was giggling more about that.
The old bumper music for, before the updated stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that really threw you for the loop. Anyway, other than that, how are you, Surlana?
I'm over it. I promise I'm over it now.
Okay. Man, it really took you down there.
Don't say anything amusing. I might go off again.
I can't guarantee that because, you know me, I'm usually good at putting my left foot into my mouth. So, all right.
Right.
Do you have, we've got a few minutes before we bring on our special guest tonight, Joe Grissafi. We usually take this time to go back and forth like we normally do.
Mm-hmm.
How was your week this week?
Oh, I wasn't prepared for that question.
Well, this is the normal time. We are live tonight.
Yeah,
And
I go to work, I get up, I go to work, I come home. That's it.
So, did we get a chance to do anything together, or that you can
No.
remember? I know yesterday, we'll get in with our guest, but we got the chance to see Lars the
Emo Kid is one of his movies that he's directed. He's a big part of, and we will ask him more about
See,
that.
Surlana has a problem about not putting proper nouns with things, so she'll say things that or his or hers. We're talking about Joe Grissafi, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Just making sure.
Our guest tonight.
Yes, is Joe Grissafi. And Houston-based?
Yes, indeed.
Yes. I'm just making sure. You got any caffeine over there?
No, I'm drinking water.
Okay. All right. So, but, it's been an interesting week, to say the least, one of which the Star Wars Rogue One trailer came out. That looks pretty tight. Hopefully we make it to December to watch it, so that was kind of cool to see come out this week.
I didn't see it, but I mean...
Trust me, you should see it. I know you're a little bit behind. I know...
I mean, I'm going to go because you're going to pay, and I'm going to get free food and stuff, but
Yeah, but the fact...
I could take or leave Star Wars at this point.
It's another woman in the lead,
Yeah, that might be interesting.
So I know that appeals to you. Why don't we just jump into Tech Rage? That'll liven you up.
Oh, my goodness. I couldn't believe that thing you posted
Well,
from the Daily Mail.
Yeah, the dailymail.co.uk.
Americans will experience 40,800 technology malfunctions, which means 40,000 bouts of tech rage over your lifetime.
Now, I have to call, what would you call it when you don't believe it? Well, I just don't
You're
believe
skeptical.
it. Yeah, I'm calling skeptical on this one, and when it comes to you.
I believe it because
Well,
there are more people who are not like us.
well, in the sense that, audience, that I've had the pleasure of watching Surlana do web work, and then definitely, in person, especially dealing with me.
If you did web work, you would be cussing too.
No, I think that you just get very aggravated in your patience.
What, like that?
Yeah, like you throwing stuff at me.
I just threw a watered up Kleenex at him.
So I think that you probably have had more Tourette's syndrome compared to others when it comes to, that.
Well, if you had to deal with what I deal with, you would be too.
Well, I mean, I deal with that in a technical sense of, the day job dealing with end users with computer programs.
I used to do that too, and I had to give it up.
I know our good friend Rick Sennett, a friend of the show, has conversed with me about definitely tech support of different people.
I
he's had
didn't
to
quit
deal
tech
with.
support because of my rage or anyone else's rage. It was the day I had to deliver a computer, set it back up on the floor, and I had to kneel down and graduate students' toenail clippings. I said, you know what? I'm done with this.
Another thing, I guess as a tech support situation, there's been many situations where people have come up to me and asked me the question, hey, do you work on computers on the side?
And you're like, oh, no.
The reality is, we don't want to work on your computer.
$500 an hour.
I mean,
that's how bad.
And when I say we, I say the IT community, because the reality is that we dealt with your stuff all day or all week, and the last thing we want to do is take your problem home with us to fix it.
Well, we don't have enough of our own.
The thing is that when, as a IT professional, when I come home, I don't want to deal with it anymore because I'm just saturated with the dealing with all of it through the course of the week. So how much do I charge K28? It's a funny thing you brought that up, because usually if I want to get it, okay, if I'm really in need of some money, I might take a computer job, or depending on the person. But the reality is, I usually say right up the bat, I say $500 just to look at it. That's before I do anything.
Jeez.
All right,
wow.
Did I say $500?
Yeah, 50.
I meant 50. Sorry.
That's what you wish
I
you
was
could
looking
say.
at K28's $500 per hour. I charge $50 just to look at it, and then I charge $30 an hour. And this is the thing where I'm telling somebody I want to get out of the situation. So $50 just to look at it, $30 an hour to just work on the machine.
By the time you've bought half of a new computer, so
and,
might as well
and then
give it up.
plus after that, parts, labor,
irritation
fees, so
well, I'm doing some contract work on the side, video contract work, and now it's not Spaceboy related. It's someone, I know someone that knows someone, and now I have some hands-on experience. I can talk to our guest tonight about short film editing. That I feel like I've got a little bit of an insight now. I've got some extra questions now I can ask them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Dennis just posted in the chat area that it's like someone asking me, will you make me a website? I can't afford to.
Well, that's the great thing. There are 2 sites I can think off the top of my head. If you're not needing anything complicated for a business, like you're not trying to run a business online, there's these sites that it's just point and click and you've built a site. You don't have to know anything about HTML or coding or CSS, and boom, there you go.
Yeah.
As long as you're not trying to sell something.
Yeah, Ronald, another space cadet out there, $50 USA is what I start off with. And really, it's kind of a chain of events that, I start building upon it to where they look at me like, well, I don't know if I can afford you, or they're like, oh yeah, $50, I could do that. And then they find out that, all these extra charges. I love working around technology. I enjoy working with computers, and I've done it so long.
Discovered a new love of video editing.
I think
and filming and
as an IT guy, I've gotten saturated with end users that are just not technically savvy, that should know better, and they inflict their own wounds to themselves, and not being more on top of it. So it's like,
you don't have to tell me.
Yeah. So that it can be very frustrating. So I choose usually not to work on computers. In the past, I think I did more work, but
you don't have that, or if you bring it home, I don't. You have more problems with road rage.
Well, yeah, that's. Well, I mean, we go from computer technical stuff to driving.
Because I'll talk to you on the phone before you get in your car to come home, and you sound fine. And by the time you get home, your mood is deteriorated completely.
Well, there are a lot of idiots that are on the road that drive. I imagine in other towns it's worse, but from what I have to deal with, it takes me, where I work, it takes me 15 minutes alone to get out of the residential area that.
Yeah, it's congested.
It's so congested.
Fortunately, I can take a highway.
15 minutes to get out of there, and then from there, it's another 35, 45 minutes to actually get home. And it's just, I've been sitting all day. Wait, did you hear it?
That must be our air conditioner.
Yeah,
sorry,
Solana was over there freaking out over there.
I'm a little on edge, actually. Legitimately paranoid because there were 4 loud jet engine noises over our house. And just to make sure everyone knows, we are nowhere near a flight path. Mm-hmm. We have never been in a flight path. We've lived in this spot since 2008. The only thing I've rarely heard go over would be either a stray helicopter or thing. But that was loud.
Commercial airlines are usually like way up there in above the clouds.
This sounded low.
We don't have a military base that's right by us. Mm-mm. In fact, the closest military base is on the other side of Houston towards Ellington Field.
We used to live right across from it.
Now, the thing is that Surlana heard 4, but there was actually 5.
Was there 5?
And it was on the west side of Houston.
Did it sound like it was coming from the south going west?
And there was somebody that, I sent out a kind of a Facebook to see if anybody in Houston had, heard or seen anything. And some friends out towards Sugar Land, which is kind of south of us, definitely heard about 4, jets. I mean, and when
these were loud.
In this neighborhood,
so loud.
In this neighborhood where we're at, you can definitely hear, like, if there's a cop, help me out here. A helicopter, thank you very much.
I didn't know what you're trying to say.
I know. It's one of those nights. Just roll with it. And so you could usually hear those, off in the distance. And
you're trying to say you can hear a cop car, you can hear the ice cream guy,
exactly.
Everybody.
I mean, it's very, because we live on a dead-end street, so we don't get much traffic, so it's very easy to hear a lot of things. And then, of course, when we went to that fast food restaurant today, I'm not saying the name because I just don't care to plug them right now. Their freestyle machine is messed up, and I'm irked by that. But anyway, getting back, I heard a jet there, and then we heard the jets that fly over our house, and you could definitely hear.
And we saw a blimp.
Well,
that wasn't related, but
I was going to say the blimp is not making any noise.
It's rare to see a blimp.
Do you want to quote whose blimp that was?
It's for a sporting goods store. I know that what it's for. It's for Dick's.
Okay, so
but it's a sporting goods store. I'm sure you've got one in your state.
I'm sure it's for sporting goods. But anyway,
yeah, that's what it is.
So I guess why are we kind of got our hair raised on the back of our necks is that the media is not really reporting what's going on globally in the world. Now, I will be the first to admit that I do not like to do politics on Spaceboy Universe because, quite frankly, you can get it just about anywhere. And the moment you pull out the politics card, then everybody loses their frickin' mind and we go into either you're 1 or 2. Either you're this or that. And I, quite frankly, don't have time to get into a discussion with somebody on politics because, quite frankly, I think the whole subject matter can be spent somewhere else other than here. Because when you tune into Spaceboy Universe, you're not tuning into getting to pick sides. We're here to have a conversation, to talk about things, and the last thing we need to do is, well, I can't be friends with you because you've decided that you want to be this kind of way or that kind of way. I have friends that are all sorts of ways. And when I say that, I mean that I have varying opinions of friends. And I value those friendships because I like to hear what they have to say. And it makes me a well-rounded individual. Anything you want to add to that, Surlana? Or you just let me roll?
I'm letting you finish your thought.
Yes, thank you.
So I can move on to something else.
Sure. But I bring this up because, in the world right now, Syria is a hot mess. And quite frankly, as I look at it, it looks like, you have the Russians involved, you have the United States involved, and regardless of how we've gotten to this point in time, I ask you, is it worth scorching the earth with a nuclear war. And I have not seen many articles or things in the main media that is out there, which I'm not surprised, because the mainstream media is focused on one thing and one thing only. And I'm not going to get into that with anybody in the situation of, goes back to politics. So, we are at DEFCON 3. It's a pretty serious situation, and, I implore our audience to be aware of what's going on and these things. So that's what I have to say on that subject matter. Do you have anything to put on that, or do you want to move on?
I'd like to move on.
Okay, do you
You're
have
bringing me down?
Sorry, but
I know.
I wanted to bring this up because it is important.
It's all. I'm sure that's all true.
Because if our audience is not getting it elsewhere, and when I say I've definitely went through the net and looked for articles on this, and I don't see our main media talking about it. Our audience is owed that bit of knowledge. We are, one of the things we strive here at Spaceboy Universe is truth. We want to let you know the truth. That's why when we talk to you, we tell you the truth of what's going on in our life. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We want you to be there, good or bad, in our relationship. We want you to grow with us. And we can't gain your truth if we can't be truthful with you. So that's the truth that we're conveying tonight. And I know I've taken a serious note on this, but it's important for me to make sure that the people that are listening tonight know that, one, we value your opinion, whatever it is, and we listen. Two, when we find something that's important, historical or relevant, then we need to let you know that this is the evidence that we've seen. You need to take it and make the best decision for yourself. On that note, I know that Surlana is just now totally about to cry and everything, so...
No, I'm waiting patiently.
Okay, well then let's shift gears.
The Coen brothers are going to write an internet dark web thriller, and I'm kind of jazzed about it because I have an odd fascination with that topic, deep net, dark net, whatever you want to call it. So Joel and Ethan Coen said they're going to write Dark Web, which will be an internet thriller about Ross William Ulbricht, the guy who created that online black market known as Silk Road. And it's going to be, I don't know when it's going to be out, but it's going to be, developed around the Dread Pirate Roberts, which was Ulbricht's online name. And I don't know if that's going to be, a fictional dramatization. I know there's already a documentary out there about Ulbricht by the guy Alex Winter. He did it in 2015. Alex Winter was Bill from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So, and I saw a big long trailer about that on YouTube. But so I'll keep my eye on this, and if it comes out where we'll be able to access it or go see it, I definitely want to see it.
Yeah, that should be interesting because I know you have a great fascination with the deep web, and we've been trying to look for a guest to come on to talk about the subject matter. I think it might come down to just reading some materials and making it a night where we... Yeah,
I've learned some things since the last time I've spoken about it, and there's a lot of rumor and myths people are taking as fact. People have never experienced it, been on it, had anything to do with it. Mm-hmm. So just like anything else, we got to find out what the real facts are.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me of our show that's going to be later this month, the Stan Romanek story. I guess a historical perspective where we're going to present the evidence and talk about his case, and let the audience kind of draw some conclusions upon the information we present for them, and it should be for a good show. Let's see, what else do I have on my docket? I don't know if our audience members have gone to our website. We have so many different things that people can click on and go to. Recently, we had Amanda Diane on the show, and talking about her project. And do you recall that, Surlana? I mean, I know you put a banner up there.
Yes, I put a banner up there with the rest of our the projects that we support. It's a rotating banner. It's near the bottom, So you'll click it. It's the cabin. You should be able to click on it, and it'll take you to their site where you can learn more about it. And I believe you will be able to get to their Kickstarter if you want to donate to that project. Yes,
and of course there's many other banners that are on the website. We have Garitano's link to his Bigfoot project that he's got going on. We have links.
We should probably get an update with him at some point.
The Circuit, courtesy of Manu Interami. And then, of course, our good friend Solaris Blue Raven has a new book out that you should definitely check out, 1 Million Miles to Midnight. And that's available. We got the book version, but I ended up buying the Kindle version for to be able to read on the go.
I'm going to read the actual book, 'cause it's been a long time since I've held an actual book in my hand
versus
to read.
Your iPhone.
Yeah.
There's really great stuff that you can click on that people that have been on here. Another one of my favorites is OSI 74 with Mr. Lobo, and he's got a great channel that can be found on Roku, and great programming. Out, and when we put it on the website, we mean business. We support these artists and people that we've come to know and love, and
that might get more attention. I'm thinking about redoing the whole website myself and revamping it.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes that are coming down the pipe with the Spaceboy universe. And
moving it to a different server and
moving, technical stuff. The website that it's on one site, we're moving there, but I won't bore you with the technicals. Just know that I know that we've got some things like we're going to be adding a blog to the website. Articles, so you can come check it out here.
They'll have to do with our 6 topics.
I believe next week we're going to be running a sweepstakes for entry. I don't want to give the prize out just yet, but just know that maybe starting next Friday, we'll have it all kind of lined up so that you can enter in and go from there. So, a little technical difficulties. I wonder, I'm going to do this live. Dennis, is it myself or is it Surlana? And as we keep on going.
Or is it the entire broadcast?
Or is that the entire broadcast?
They're all saying it.
Oh, great.
It's just what we need.
Yeah, so I know that we're green here, and I don't see anything out of the ordinary.
No, I don't either.
Okay, let's just, let's see. I thought it was just me too. You know what?
We've got a dedicated line now.
The thing is that this is very frustrating. Surlana, can you hop on your phone and do you have your headphones connected?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll continue to talk and just see what we're getting there on the live feed. It's an odd night because I hate to be funny about this whole thing, but the last time we had Joe Grissafi on, we had the major technical issues, and so as it better not happen again. The whole thing that we did the upgrades for to getting to a better sound. Yeah, so A1. Well, James is saying it's okay now. Maybe pages don't load, etc. I'm just reading off the tweet thing, or not tweet thing, the chatter out of the Spreaker chat room. And Surlana is testing. And what do we have here, Surlana? She's holding up the phone like I would hear it, and I'm continuing. Well, it sounds good. Well, then let's just plug ahead and just hope for the best. And
I'm on LTE.
Oh, you're on LTE? Okay, good.
LTE.
All right. So now she's putting back on her headphone set.
I don't think anybody missed me.
No, I doubt that,
I
seriously.
seriously doubt it.
Okay, tonight's poll is, if Surlana was to disappear off the show, would you miss her?
I don't think I want the answer to that question.
No, I really know the answer to this
I wouldn't
question.
miss me.
Yeah, so yes, Tina's saying it's good. Yeah, we're getting repeats back. Okay, so yeah, quiz or trivia.
Glitch in the Matrix.
Trivia is if Surlana was gone off the show, would you miss her? Yeah, see, I
That's
think
sort of my dream just disappear mysteriously.
You would just love to listen, just jump off. Hey, Mike.
Hey there, Michael.
Michael Hicks. And, so yeah, see, look, the fans love you. The Space Cadets are chiming in that they would not miss me, they'd miss you.
Ha.
Yeah, so there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's your heartful.
If you allowed me to, if you dismissed me, I would run out of here, throw these things down, and be on the next book I could read.
I'm sure you would, but we've made changes.
And you suckered me into this anyway. I never got a choice. I never got a choice to be on this program.
Okay, I just knew you had the stuff of dreams.
The only way out now is death or divorce.
Or other things, but let's see. K28 was
someday. K28, when we don't have a guest, I'm hoping he'll be able to call in and tell his experiences of his fan meetup with this. I don't think things have. We've had guests and a lot of things going on, so.
All right,
maybe next week.
You know what? I'm going to go ahead and start the bottom of the hour commercial bump.
All right.
And that way we can get Joe on the phone. And so you're listening to Spaceboy Universe. Don't touch that dial.
I'm from another planet. Can you hear me?
Hello, Space Cadets. It's me, Spaceboy of Spaceboy Universe Live. I'm here to ask you to consider donating to cover our costs for broadcasting our live show. We love our show. We believe in the product, but we need your support. So visit SpaceboyUniverse.com and click the Donate Now button. This will take you to the SBU PayPal account, and you can choose the payment type of your choice. Every little bit helps. Surlana and I appreciate your support. And as always, listen to Spaceboy Universe live on Saturday nights at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, only on SpaceboyUniverse.com.
Hello Space Cadets. It is announcer Savannah. I want to tell you that as a dedicated member of the SBU team, you always want to look your best. Do it in a Spaceboy Universe t-shirt. Get yours at spaceboyuniverse.com by clicking the banner on the website. Remember that, it's Spaceboy's Universe, and you're in it.
This is author Jordan Root. You are listening to the Spaceboy Universe.
This is K28, and I'm listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Hi, y'all. This is Lori calling from Texas, and I love listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Hey, this is Dave Cruz, host of Beyond the Strange, and you're listening to Spaceboy Universe.
This is Wendy. I'm listening to Spaceboy Universe. Hey, y'all. This is Lorelai DeLille. I listen to Spaceboy Universe. Don't you? Tell your mom and them I said hi.
The epic battle begins this Friday. Direct from ringside at Laser Death Melt at Bot vs. Bot in Galaxy's 2-ton weight championship, where your challenger, Good Bot, will face the reigning champion, Bad Bot.
You're terminated.
Reserve seating starting at $30. 2-drink minimum, where ladies don't get in free. This is an SBU production. You're listening to Spaceboy Universe.
Hi, this is Spaceboy, and I want to take this time to invite you to join Spaceboy and Surlana in our on-demand show called Data Bites, bite-sized pieces of the universe. You can catch it on demand on Spreaker.com. Just search for Spaceboy Universe. And remember, it's Spaceboy's Universe, and you're in it.
Hey, Surlana!
What?
If Spaceboy Universe was cheese, would you eat it? Come on now, it's a simple question.
Maybe.
SpaceboyUniverse.com.
Techno, dance, atmospheric moods? Yes, my friends. My latest release, Digital, has something for everyone. Even makes a great gift for Grandma. Buy your digital download at spaceboymusic.com.
Greetings, Space Cadets. Let's see what's in the sky tonight in the Spaceboy universe. Tonight, in the eastern sky, we have Spaceboy universe rising above the horizon in glorious splendor. And in the west, we can see Surlana's Majoris, which is visible at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, just below the K28 belt. So keep your eyes on the sky and listen to Spaceboy universe.
Greetings everyone. You can catch Spaceboy Universe on every Saturday night at 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time. However, we know that you might not be able to catch the live show. That is why we have many places to listen to it on demand, like iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube and Spreaker. So take the universe with you wherever you go. Always remember that, it's Spaceboy's universe, and you're in it.
To call in, dial area code 713-7015-214. You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Surlana.
Joe Grissafi is an actor and an award-winning director from Houston, Texas. The films he has directed include Laughing Boy, Dead of Night, Conjoined, and Lars the Elmo Kid.
Emo.
Did I miss that one again?
Yes, dear. Sorry.
Sorry, Joe. We'll fix that in post. Films.
That's okay.
Films that he has appeared in include Doll Factory, The Haunted Trailer, and the upcoming gem of the Rainforest, and in a Madmen's World, in which he plays a real-life serial killer, Dean Corell. Did I say that one right? Corell?
It's Coral. I think it's just Coral.
All right. Well, on that, here is our guest tonight, Joe Grissafi. Hello, Joe. How are you tonight?
Good, Space Boy. How are you? And Surlana, how are you too?
I'm good. I've been giggling at him for the last 30 minutes. I don't really know why.
I think she's thrown off my mojo, to be honest with you. The laughing part at the beginning is just like through, and then of course me talking death and destruction during our opening.
I copy pasted your bio right from IMBD, and so it says emo kid, and it has nothing. There's no Elmo to do with it. So just want to make sure it's Lars, the emo kid.
Lars the emo kid. Other people have said Elmo. That is actually very common, especially for people who don't know the word emo. Mm-hmm. They look at it and say Elmo, and they realize they made a mistake.
I went to school with Gothic and Elmo kids, and I'm familiar with. Did I do it again?
Yes.
I just don't know.
Yes.
Next, you'll be calling Joe, Fran, or Bev. So.
Oh my goodness gracious!
It's his Gene Hackman syndrome.
I'm having a Gene Hackman kind of day, Joe, and that's another story altogether.
If you want to know that story, you got to listen to our 1-year anniversary show.
So, Joe,
okay.
Let's get into the business. So, why don't you start it off, Surlana, since I'm slipping and sliding?
Okay. Well, I want to start. Kind of chronologically, I want to, start, with your personal background, or if you grew up in Houston or Texas, and your influences as movies, as a story, influences to you as a movie teller growing up.
Well, I was born and raised in Houston.
Wow.
I left a couple of times, but I came back. I went to Los Angeles a couple of times, about a year and a half each episode, each trip, and but I kept coming back, and I felt I had a better chance of actually making my films here, and so far I've been correct. I went to Straight Jesuit College Preparatory. I graduated in the mid 80s, and at that time I had no interest in pursuing a film career. Really, in high school, I didn't really know what I was going to do. I was just all over the place with ideas and interests, and I was that guy who was interested in something for 3 or 4 months and then moved on to something else, trying to figure out where I needed to be. It wasn't until like my first year of college that I realized, you know what, I want to do this filmmaking and acting thing. So I eventually changed my major to radio and television at U of H. They didn't have a film degree. They did have a film class or two, which I took, but didn't get to do a film degree because the degree didn't exist. But that's when it was in the editing room where I realized this is a good fit for me. I'm really enjoying this, and it's something that obviously I stuck with for the first time in my life. But it was working after class at night on the old movie-olas that they have, cutting and splicing the 16mm film.
Oh, yes.
It just felt right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it felt right. It was fun. It felt right. I was really energized by it. Going back a bit, my dad used to play with 8mm films in the 70s. You know, he would take the film camera to Astro World, and we would shoot movies. And there was always a projector at the house. And we had, we maybe had 3 reels of films, and two of those films that I kept going back and watching were an episode of Mighty Mouse called Frankenstein's Cat, and an old Rodan movie. I would repeatedly
Rodan,
put those
Japanese.
Rodan, the Godzilla monster, yeah. I would always put those reels in the projector and screen them on my bedroom wall, and I just, you know, looking back, it was magical, you know. And when we didn't have one of those sound projectors, it was just silent. Oh, and we had a reel of Little Rascals films. We had a Halloween Little Rascals film, which I watched all the time. We may still even have those somewhere. But that's probably where it started, just being able to, you know, hold the film and put it in the projector and just falling in love with it, but not being too young to understand what was happening. And then later, when I actually got to handle film as a young adult, then it felt right. Then I realized there's something here for me.
I know personally, Joe, that I was going to say that there's something romantic about listening to a projector roll as you're watching film. I have many fond memories of my grandparents had the 8mm as well, and they would take many pictures of the kids as they would come over, and we'd watch them later on. But also in school, since you're about my age, you know, when they would do, you know, show things in school, you know, they had it on projector, or not projector, but the, you know, film projector, right, exactly.
Or the slides,
right,
the static slides. Of course, that was always a cue to go to sleep.
For me, it was like I was totally, you know, I would drop immensely into whatever was being played, whether it be like, this is how you brush your teeth, or something. A lot of times they had Jimmy Cricket playing for Disney, where they would I'm no fool kind of thing, and I was always just something romantic about hearing a projector hum and hearing that click.
There really is that
and that's gone.
That
I guess
sound
today
becomes ingrained in you, and we're losing that if we haven't completely lost it already. And you know, if you've seen Conjoined, I put that projector sound at the beginning of the movie.
I'd like to see Conjoined.
I'll be sure to send you a link so you can watch it. But we put our logos at the top of the movie, and we made them shaky like the film was going. The film was out of line, and used the projector sound as a throwback, as a, you know, honoring the drive-in movies that we were kind of mocking with the film. And I just love that sound when I've watched that movie so many times, and I just love that sound when it comes on.
Yeah, it's a nostalgic. Yeah, I guess I'm old enough definitely to remember, you know, the old film, and then now we're switched over to the digital movieplexes, where, you know, now and the thing now that I like to do is see a live event being streamed by satellite to the movie theater.
That's fun. We went to see, I guess it was a couple of months ago, the Monty Python live.
Mm-hmm. Well, I go to I go to see Riff Tracks live when it's here.
Oh, how fun is that?
Yeah, we're going this month to see Carnival of Souls.
Oh wow, that's great. Where is that showing?
It's only gonna be at the Edwards Theater, over here by IKEA.
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be at that Edwards, where Dave and Buster's is.
For our audience that's here in Houston, you'll have to check
right
your own
off of
listing.
I-10. You can I-10 and 610. So, but I'm
I think
sure.
I think it's I-10 and Silver.
Yeah.
I-10 and Silver.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But the man who was in Carnival of Souls as the young neighbor, Sidney Berger, he was head of the College of Theater when I worked at UH, and I did tech support for the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences. And this was about 2005, 2006. And he was there, and I did some, he was a Mac user, if anybody was interested. Now, he passed away, I think in 2012 or 2013, but...
yes, relatively recently.
When my last week, when I gave my 2 weeks notice, I went to see him with my copy of a DVD of Carnival of Souls. And it was the one that Mike Nelson did the track for, where he was making fun of it. So I got in there with a gold Sharpie, and I said, would you sign my liner, my DVD liner? Because Mike Nelson refers to him as Greasy Guy. But, and he's like, Carnival of Souls was never meant to be wide released. It was never meant to be a cult following. It was just a student film we wanted to do to get practice on making film and acting. So I thought, how cool is I got to learn a little bit about a little backstory in that, and I got his autograph. I still have it on my Carnival.
That's great.
Shows. So, yeah, I was going to ask you, so when you were in college, you say that's when you got the bug. So how did you get into the business of film production or directing or acting, or however you got into it?
Well, I was at University of Houston, and I think my first year I wasn't sure what I was going to do. It was my sophomore year where I realized that I wanted to go for that. Little history, little background. My father was always in the car business, and growing up I thought that's where I was heading. And just one day I realized, no, I really want to do something different and unique. And I decided to start pursuing. I took I signed up for an acting class at U of H, and then after that decided let me take some production classes too. So I changed my major, ultimately changed my major to radio television. I got an internship for credit with David Berman Films in Houston.
Oh, yeah.
So I quickly started meeting people who could hire me on commercials. As part of my internship, I would go out and help on commercial sets as a PA. I wasn't getting paid. At the time, it didn't matter either. But I met some great people who I still talk to today. Some of them I actually still work with. I graduated U of H in '93. I took the 6.5-year plan.
Yeah.
And right after college, I put together a short film called Death and a Salesman. I was spending a lot of time with a friend of mine, Lonnie Reeves, who is a big Hammer Films fan. He's all the 30s, 40s, and 50s films. He was an encyclopedia of that era of filmmaking. And we had similar comedic sensibilities. So we sat down, we had this idea. If we took the title Death of a Salesman and made it Death and a Salesman. And the concept was, what if a car salesman has to sell a car to the Grim Reaper to keep the Grim Reaper from taking his soul?
Interesting. That's much better than Death of a Salesman.
Thank you. And in like 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours, we sat down, we just spitballed, played off each other, and we wrote this script that I'm still proud of today. I don't know many filmmakers who look back at their first film, their first short film, and go, "Oh, let me show you my first film." I've been doing this for 20 years, and I still tell people to watch my first short film.
That's
because we really, I'm really proud of it to this day. It's getting screened at the Cinema Social is a new group in town. They're having an event, I think, on October 29th, It's the art of horror and filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
I may be getting the title of the event wrong, but it's the art of horror. That they're going to have horror-themed artists and horror films showing all night, and they're going to show Death and a Salesman. So it's going to be like the 21st anniversary screening, and I'm thrilled that they liked it enough to schedule it for the event. I get to keep promoting it, and it just keeps finding new people. I mean, it was getting accepted to festivals for like 10 years. Not a lot, but every now and then another festival would pick it up and show it. It was really weird, and very validating. And, you know, since we shot it in 95, we didn't have digital video, so we got to shoot it on film. And I still have a bunch of stills. We shot it in Houston.
Cool.
On Washington Boulevard. I think there was a little used car lot called Scheffler Motors. And when we were looking for the location, I just happened to drive by it, and I was like, that's it. And I went in there and talked to Gene Scheffler, and we were chatting for a while, and it turned out that he knew my dad from being in the car business.
Of course.
So he let us film there one weekend for 2 days, and we had this great little short that I'm still pushing. You know, I just recently found the master tape. We didn't actually cut the film and create a reel, but we did shoot film but edit it on tape. I found the master tape, redigitized it. I went through it and kind of cleaned it up. So we're gonna put it on some Roku channels and
great.
keep trying to find an audience for these things. I'm one who doesn't give up on the films he makes. There are filmmakers out there who make the film and then they either say, I don't know what to do with it now, or they put it on now Amazon or something and just kind of, that's it. They don't do anything to promote it. I actually like everything I've done, so I want to keep getting it in front of people, because I do believe that everything new brings new life to everything old in our world. When Lars the Emo Kid actually gets a wider release, I think people are going to say, what else has this guy done? So I want to be sure everything I've done is available for people to find.
It is a concept.
And I owe it.
I was going to say, it is a concept that we kind of apply to ourselves here. Put it out there, and
people have found your music, your older stuff, and as I look at it, is people are bound to trip over it and then question, okay, because it's so many times there have been things where I've come across a show, if you will, and caught an episode and thought, wow, that was really good, and then I find out, well, that was done several years ago, or 10 years ago, or 20 years ago. And where was I when the show was going on, kind of thing, and just kind of just soak it all in. Nowadays we call it binge watching, but it's definitely, put it out there, somebody will bound to trip over it.
Someone will find it. I mean, it's getting harder because the market is so flooded with content now, but someone will find it. My friend Bob Willems launched a Roku channel called Champion Entertainment, I think about 3 months ago. And there hasn't been any marketing for the channel. We've got Conjoined on there. We've got Dead of Night on there. If you have a Roku,
we do.
Find Champion Entertainment, and you can watch these films for free. We have Dead of Night and Conjoined on there, and without any promotion, or I tweeted about it a little bit, Conjoined has been watched 9,000 times.
That's really
on a
good.
Roku channel that's not really getting pushed yet. And I'm thinking, that's really great. And I did some research and found that there's some 15 million Roku units that have been purchased.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's only in the United States, but
it's definitely a growing audience. I know that our friends
it's
at OSI 74 have, they've marketed it kind of like... think of you well, Elvira kind of thing. That's what this Mr. Lobo does.
He's a host of
host, and so it's definitely a market that a lot of people have been because we cut the cord, so to speak, on cable, and we went
Right.
strictly with like Roku and just watch what we want to watch on demand. So, and I know Surlana might have a question on that.
That's later, yeah.
later that she'll get to. But great. If the audience, Space Cadets Champion Entertainment, if you have a Roku, check it out.
I wrote that down.
Yeah.
Go check it out. There's a handful of Houston films on there, and I'm trying to help other filmmakers that I know, and I'm encouraging them to get their content to Bob if they're not doing anything with it. Today I talked to two producers. Two friends do a video game show called Famicom Dojo, and I'm pushing them to give Bob the content and say, you got it on YouTube, that's great. You can keep finding your audience, but if you give it to these other channels, they're going to find a new audience for you.
Mm-hmm. Famicom.
Famicom is
the Japanese original version.
Japanese version
NES.
of Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've learned so much having a broadcast.
And then another friend of mine, Tony DiBenedetto, has a web series called In Fear Of, and I pitched him the idea. I said, give it to Bob. And Tony's just like, we're talking. Today, Tony talked like you and I are right now. It's like, just get it out there so people can find it.
Mm-hmm.
And and I really believe I owe it not just to myself and to the film, but I owe it to all the people who helped me make them. So I fight to find audiences for these films. I have not yet been fortunate enough to get a Redbox deal. I did get a film on Netflix many years ago, Laughing Boy.
Uh-huh.
But a lot of people helped me for little or no money to get these films made, and I owe it to them to make them available. If they want to tell people to watch it, that's their prerogative. But I owe it to everyone who helped me make my films to make them available for people to find. Otherwise, most people wasted their time if no one can find the movie.
Right.
And yeah, it's great to try to get that Redbox deal, to get that Netflix deal, but that's not all. There are other options. There are so many options. You really, there's no excuse not to release your film. But I still know filmmakers who haven't released finished films. I'm kind of fascinated by that. Why do you make it?
Yeah, why make it if you're not planning to, put it out there for people to enjoy? Isn't that the whole
money?
Isn't that the point of producing the film to share it with the masses? Or am I missing something there, Joe?
You are not missing anything. That is absolutely what they are for. They are to be consumed by an audience, and if you don't get it out there for an audience to find, why did you make it? Now, I get some people do it. I think they get their ego stroked when they're making a film. Facebook's funny that way. Get to announce a film, and then all your friends say they're so happy for you for announcing it, And then I think that has a lot to do with it. It's I think there are a lot of independent filmmakers who just don't have the stamina. They don't realize what they're really getting into when they try to make a feature film with no money.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta be prepared. If you have a little bit of money and you can do it in 6 months, great. I haven't had that yet. I've done mine for micro budgets, and that ends up taking several years to get it out there. If you want it to be really good. Now, Conjoined is different because we didn't intend to make it very good. We wanted to make Conjoined as fast as possible, and we were embracing the mistakes that we made. Fortunately, we made a really funny movie, and we were actually surprised when we started to get all these good reviews, because we did it so fast. We got Conjoined out, I think, in 5 months. And it was really a challenge. The challenge was to actually get a low-budget movie out quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't worry about details. We didn't worry about details. We didn't sweat the details, I guess you could say.
Right.
If something was wrong, we said, we just live with it. We have to move on. We got invited to screen at a festival in Chicago before the film was finished, so now we had a deadline. Mm-hmm. A week before that festival, whatever condition the movie's in, it's done.
Can you give us a summary
and it turned out great.
Of what it's about?
What's that?
Can you give us a summary of what Conjoined is about?
Yes. Conjoined is a film written by Chuck and Tim Norfolk that I directed. The story is the story is so funny. A man falls in love with a beautiful woman. I should say a nerdy, lonely guy falls in love with a beautiful woman on an online dating site, and falls in love and proposes marriage, not realizing she has a conjoined twin.
Oh boy.
Okay.
And when she shows up to his house, he's too love-struck or spineless to get out of the relationship, so he lets him stay. And it turns out that conjoined twin is a serial killer. So that sold me on it. When we had the opportunity to make a film at Champion Entertainment, and I called Chuck and I said, here's the deal. We have the studio. I have $2,000. I need a script with minimal cast that we can shoot entirely in this studio. And a couple days later, he sent me the script, and we renamed it Conjoined after I said, this is the script. We're going to do this, and we're not going to change a thing. And we made it work with the one location, and we found our actors, Tom Long, Michelle Ellen Jones, and Kiefer Barlow. Jake Bird and Sarah Gaston are the central cast. And there's a lot of things we did differently with that film. We didn't really plan anything. We gave ourselves 4 days prep, basically. And if things weren't ready, we just shot anyway. If we were missing props, we grabbed something that kind of made sense or didn't make sense at all. And that became, the intention there was to embrace those situations and make them part of the fun and create some accidents, create some problems that would make it look like a bad movie. And it worked really, really well.
That's a good question.
Well, Joe, we're at the top of the hour, so we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll be talking more with you and Surlana and myself. So you're tuned into Spaceboy Universe. Don't touch that dial.
You are listening to Spaceboy Universe. Now here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Surlana.
Yes, I am Spaceboy, and across from me is the lovely Surlana, and on the phone is the awesome Joe Grissafi. So we continue back.
Hello.
Yes, a low voice. You had another one there, Surlana.
For before I get into your specific projects, what do you like about working in film in Houston, or being based out of Houston, or filming in Houston, or?
Well, my favorite thing about filming in Houston is the simple fact that it's home. You know, I get to be around people I grew up with. Sometimes I get people I grew up with involved. Cool. Since I had worked here early in my career, I feel like the people I want to work with are here. If I had an opportunity to go work in another state, I would work. But I really like working with people I'm familiar with. I love meeting new people, but I like the team feeling of working with the same people over and over again. And it's just the fact that I get to do this at home. You know, when we shot Laughing Boy, it was great to go. We did a castle scene, and you might remember the Malibu Castle off 610.
Oh yes, I do.
From years ago, it's long gone now. But
I was so devastated when they plowed that thing over. But anyway, go on.
Yes, but I grew up going to that place. Before I could drive, we'd go there, and so I had some great memories there. And now I'm making this film in 1998, and we need a castle set, and I get to go shoot a scene there. That's really great. That's really. I think it feels like it's full circle stuff. It's like I grew up here, and now I'm making this film here, and it happened several times with films that I got to do something like that. That's something that I had, maybe it was a song that I heard in high school or a location that I grew up in. That has a lot of value to me. It may not make any difference to the people watching the film, but to say I shot a scene at the Malibu Castle before it was destroyed, and people in Houston, when they watch the film Laughing Boy, they recognize it, and it brings back other memories, brings back other good memories. I remember a friend of mine that I didn't know at the time. I collect arcade games and pinball machines, and there's a collector community here in town.
Joysticks is one of the places you can go to.
Oh yeah, it's probably the biggest one, Joysticks. When Malibu Castle was finally closing, a friend of mine that I had met long after we made that film, he raids I'm doing air quotes, he raids warehouses for arcade games. Well, they did a raid. They got the opportunity to go to Malibu Castle before it closed and clean out all their arcade stuff, and he got it for, he got to pick up all the stuff. And he called me and he said, "Guess what I found in the back room?" And it was a poster from Laughing Boy. That had been up there for years. And I got such a kick out of that. But the most rewarding thing about being able to film in Houston is simply that it's home, and I didn't have to leave to have a career here. And that's, when you think about having a career in film and actually making a living at it, you don't think you can stay.
Yeah, because
not many people think.
I guess the automatic thing is that you either think L.A. or New York.
At the time, yeah. Now you can go to Atlanta or New Orleans. You can go other places. But yes, at the time it was, if you want to work in film, you got to go to L.A. Well, it took a long time to actually make a living at this, but I'm doing it in Houston. And if I were to leave right now, if I were to go to L.A., it would be like starting over, because I wouldn't know anybody. That I would know people, but no one that could really
help you.
It would really be starting over and trying to meet people who could influence my career. But here, I love it so much. I can go out to a film set, come home, and be with my dogs, And when I was in L.A., the struggle was different. I had to go to L.A. You have to give up a lot of stuff to make a living at this, or to give this a try, and I did that. And I'm realizing out there, I really want to do this, but I also want a dog. I didn't have a dog at the time. It's like, I really want a dog. I can't have a dog in this apartment comfortably. And there's other things I gave up that I really love that actually inspire me to keep doing this. Like my hobbies. I mentioned arcade games and pinball machines. I really like that stuff. Well, in LA, I couldn't do anything with that. And that sometimes I draw inspiration for a story or a scene or something from my hobbies. My hobbies will influence what I'm doing with my films. And when I don't have that stuff around, it's kind of depressing when you can't surround yourself with the things you love. I know a lot of people believe that you gotta be able to give everything up to do this, and it works for several. You know, you hear about the people that slept in their car for 15 years before becoming an overnight sensation. I couldn't do that. You know, that doesn't mean I'm not doesn't mean I'm not dedicated to this. I just couldn't live like that because I didn't get an early start. You know, I moved out there, I think, when I was in my late 20s. I just didn't feel like that was the lifestyle for me. And did I make the right decision coming back? I don't know. I'm happy, you know.
Well, Houston is a wonderful place to live. That's where we live, so I have to
Everything's here you could
want.
want.
Everything you
No, it really is.
Want. Yeah.
It really is. And now there are so many people making films. There's all kinds of support here. You know, you can be doing something in this business almost every day because there's so many people making films and so many talented people. That's what's crazy. There's some crazy talented people here in town, and I hope that some of them eventually get a break and get to do something really special.
Yeah. Well, I would like to talk about Lars and the Emo Kid because we watched it last night, and I noticed somewhere on your media you had posted that it recently won several awards at was it Lake Charles Film and Music Festival?
Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. I was surprised. You know, I don't go to submit to festivals expecting awards. I'm just grateful that it gets screened. And you know, Lake Charles is so close. It was a 2.5-hour drive, so I drove out there for the day and stuck around for the award show, the award ceremony, just to see. Maybe they didn't even make any nomination announcements, so I didn't even know if we were being considered for anything. So I stuck around just because I'm curious, you know, being hopeful. Maybe we'll get something, and I'm glad I did. You know, when they first announced Paxton Gilmore getting Best Actor from all the films in the festival, it's fantastic. Paxton also wrote the film. I want him to get as much recognition as possible. And that's his second Best Actor award for the film, even though he's not an actor. That's what's great about it. He wants to write. So he got that, and I was excited. I texted him a picture. Hey, look what you just won! You got a heart. You got a trophy. And then they announced a couple more films. Then they announced Best Narrative Feature, Lars the Emo Kid. What? So I went up. I was excited. I went up and got that trophy. And then she said, "Don't even bother sitting down." Best of Show. We got Best of Show. So I could not be happier with that festival and those awards.
Congratulations on that, by the way, and
thank you.
Well deserved. I know that you know, like Surlana was saying, we got the chance to watch it last night, and it was very entertaining. You know, what were some of your thoughts on that, Surlana?
Well, you know, when I finished it, I was thinking about when you compare. Maybe it's just wrong of me to compare, but in my mind, when you compare this movie, your movie, Lars, to something like, let's say, Napoleon Dynamite, that was, you know, of a wide release. And well, Napoleon, sure, it was interesting, but you have a weird kid who's an outsider, but the story ends. There's no real growth of character. It was just sort of fluff and weirdness and surrealism just for the sake of it. Whereas Lars, he went through something, he was going through something, and it looked bad, but he came out to the other side of it, and maybe, you know, he grew as a person. You felt like you got something out of the film, whereas something more mainstream, like, I don't know if this is the wrong one to compare it to, like Napoleon Dynamite, was just like, that was my impression.
Others have compared it in its quirkiness. They've compared it to Napoleon Dynamite. Another film it gets compared to is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I don't know if you've seen that.
I've not seen that one.
But yeah, I watched that. When people started to say that, I said, I need to go watch that, and I see it. But I think what you're saying is very true. Lars goes through something and comes out a different person at the end, a better person. It's a hopeful person. There's hope for everybody.
Yes.
I recently heard another podcaster that watched it and reviewed it. He liked the film, but he didn't like the ending. He didn't like the fact that we did a happy ending. It's like, you want this kid to make it. You don't want him to actually go through with what he was going to do at the end.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't know if it was a happy ending, because his parents still had that situation they were in. They were not happy. He was in a better place, maybe, but...
Yeah, okay, he was in a better place, and he was with friends now, which he didn't. He had none at the beginning of the film.
He was kind of a loner because of certain circumstances, right. But ultimately, I think at the end, I like the ending. I mean,
there was some great things in that movie. I just like the conversation between the shopping carts was pretty funny. That was an illustration,
or the bruising of the fruit.
Yeah,
that was
the grapes.
Yeah,
the look on that woman's face, and she's like, "Oh God, there's another one that looks just like him." And then
the funny thing about go ahead.
Yeah, and the one where he goes to the park and he sees those kids for the first time, and they all hide from him, like like there's some kind of tree dwellers or something hiding from
animals in the dark.
Yeah,
kind of like you gotta hide.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was supposed to be. Yeah. The funny thing about the shopping cart scene is that's the one scene we shot that I really wanted to cut from the film, because I thought no one's going to find this.
But it
funny.
Illustrates the point very well that they're trying to make.
People bring it up all the time now. People say that's their favorite scene. I'm like, oh, I'm sure glad I didn't cut that.
Yeah, because when we were watching it, we were like, okay, first off, I was like, wait, where's this coming from? And when I say that, and then immediately I think in my head, just go with it and just let it happen. And it was funny, and we both looked at each other and just laughed about it, and it was great.
Good, thank you. That makes me really happy that I made the right decision to keep it in there.
Was there a scene in there that was filmed at HCC?
Yes, we shot the opening classroom scene. Yes, the opening classroom scene and the poetry scene about halfway through.
Well, it was at the end.
Maybe about halfway through.
Well, there was sitting.
Yes, there's another scene where he's sitting outside.
Oh yeah, the very end where the other guy gets the slushy thrown at him.
Yeah,
yes, that was.
And the only reason I recognize it,
Spring Branch ACC.
That's where we're very near that.
Where we live. Pretty much got my associate's degree at that location. And so it was like when I was looking at some of these scenes, I was like, that looks familiar. But then the scene outside, because that brick wall color, it's just so ingrained in my mind. And I was like, that is done at HCC. I recognize the location.
Houston Community College, in case those of you don't know what we keep saying, HCC.
Right, yeah. I know Rick Boyd, and I've done some stuff with him. And we needed a classroom scene, and we reached out to him, and he gave us permission to be there. And then we needed a place to do that last little bit, so we did it there too.
Well, that was awesome. It's funny when there's when I go into a movie or watch a movie or anything, I always don't want to be shown something. Oh, I know where that is, because it kind of like
takes you out,
takes me out of it. But in this situation, for some reason, it just made me enjoy this movie so much more.
Like you said about filming at that castle place.
Yeah, exactly. And so there was another added level to this that I really enjoyed, because I recognized some of the shooting locations that you did. But ultimately, it didn't detract like some other movies might. And this one is definitely
It's like that time when you were watching, what's that show you watched? with a girl and the weird guy and
Joe, she does this to me all
I'm
the
sorry,
time.
I can't.
She refuses to put
Fringe.
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 Okay. Oh, okay.
The TV series Fringe.
Yeah.
I could not think of the name. They showed a still shot from the exterior, and it was the College of Public Service downtown. And it was supposed to be a military hospital.
Yeah.
They had like a second unit come down here and scout for locations to use on the show. And I'm like, that's no military hospital. That's a College of Public Service.
It only affects one city that's viewing it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was funny.
When something's used completely out of context, it's distracting. Do you remember Congo?
Yeah,
the movie Congo.
Yes, I do remember that movie.
When they did the exterior shot of NASA.
Yeah.
To me, it just tickles me to death when they showed an exterior of what was supposed to be NASA. The subtitle said NASA, but there were mountains in the background.
Right, exactly. I haven't seen any mountains here recently.
Why? That's got to be a joke. That's got to be a joke.
Maybe it was Cheyenne Mountain where they have that underground complex or something. But I was
I didn't.
I was going to ask you, with regards to directing or producing a film, in your experience, is it harder to get it started or to keep it going? And in what's a particular situation where you had to conquer to get something going or to keep it going, a project?
Well, when you don't have any money to speak of, like I've gotten used to working with, it's hard to keep it going. It's easy to get people excited and get them on board, especially if you've done it before or you have something that's fun. It's easy to get people excited to start, but people will bail. People will stop showing up. Actors will. The longer you take, the less interested people tend to get in actors and crew, especially. If you're just asking people to come out and help you and you can't pay them, you're lucky to get anybody. There were several days where it was just me as the crew. I learned how to actually do everything because there was no crew to support me on Lars on several days. So it's hardest to keep it going when you don't have money. If you have money, it's not. You pay people, they show up, they do their job, and they go home. You get your film done. But it's fascinating that it's so easy to get people excited and get these things started. The problem there is if you don't start when you say you're going to, then people start to lose interest too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing I've learned is certain things you do last. It's easy for producers and directors to start casting a film because it actually makes you feel like you're getting something done.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, casting is the easiest part of the process. And I'm from here on out, I wait to do that last because you can start holding auditions, and you don't even have a shoot date, but you get excited and you start holding auditions, and you find great people. You know what? What if you don't actually start for 6, 7, 8 months? You're going to lose those people. They're going to lose complete interest in your film. It's happened to me in the past. And as an actor, I've lost interest when I've gone to an audition way too early. I got cast and they don't have a start date. Get other things in order. Get everything else in order, then cast, and then you will have a much more excited cast.
Because they know everything's ready to go.
Yeah.
They don't have to wait.
Yes, they know. In 2 weeks we start, guys. If you can't do it in 2 weeks, we're going to have to cast somebody else. But they're ready to go. They're excited about it. If you make it, the longer you make people wait, the less excited they are. One of the downfalls I've had with my films is they've taken a long time to make, and by the time they get released, the cast isn't really excited anymore. And that's when you really need that extra support of them telling people to watch the film. I get it. I'm the same way as an actor. If I work on a film and it takes 5, 6 years to release, I don't want to talk about it anymore. That's old news. I've moved on.
Yeah.
So I completely understand when that happens, and I don't fault anybody for feeling that way. Hopefully Lars will be different because I think it's really good, and I think everybody involved has something to gain from it. So hopefully when it actually is physically released or streaming, the cast will get their friends to watch, because it's good. It needs to be seen, and everyone that's in it can benefit from it, because everybody is good down to the one-liner roles. It's a solid cast, and they couldn't be luckier.
Are the cast from Houston or all over?
They are all from Houston. Some have moved since then. Tyler Tackett and Nicole Elliott have both moved to Los Angeles, and I think they're doing pretty well out there. But yeah, everybody was local, and they had to be, because our shooting was so sporadic. We didn't, it wasn't like we were able to schedule for 4 weeks and be done and bring people in from out of town. It was kind of, we started with the intent of doing it pretty quickly, but things happened. We lost locations and had to spread the shoot out. So you have to use local actors in that case, because you can't keep flying people in. It just gets, obviously it's not cost effective. Right. So everyone was local. I'm grateful for everyone who participated. We had a lot of crew throughout the film. Not a lot every day, but a lot of people would come out for a day or two and help when necessary. I think Lars is the largest cast I've ever worked with. We think we had some 54 or 55 speaking roles, which is unheard of for such a small movie. That it's never advised to write a film, to try to shoot a film for no money that has a cast that big. Mm-hmm. But we pulled it off, and not to mention probably over 100 extras spread out throughout the film, because you got the classroom scene, you got the campus scenes. There's some big scenes with a lot of people, and it's by far the biggest I've ever attempted. Dead of Night had a classroom scene and a festival scene, which were big, but the rest of it was just, and a party scene, but the rest of it was just 2 or 3 actors at a time. Lars had several bigger scenes, and it was a real challenge, but I think we handled it really well.
I thought the cast did really well. I think my favorite was the guy who played the drug dealer. I thought he
Roland
did really well.
Yeah, Roland Ruiz. He's one of, there's a couple of cast members. He's one of them that have done some big films. He had small roles in Machete and Boyhood. He's had a national Best Buy commercial. Roland's done some good stuff. Tyler Tackett he's probably going to blow up sometime soon. He's in a Dragon Ball Z fan film that's been watched millions of times. And it's a fan film, so they can't really make any money off the film, but the exposure you get from something like that, he's got a strong fan base that hopefully will learn that he's in Lars.
Well, there's something to be said about these fan films, because the production values are
can be quite good.
I'll just mention Axanar, but then I'll leave it from that. Star Trek, but
sore spot with us.
Yes, but but yeah, there's many fan-produced films that wow, that could have been directly from the big,
canon. Yeah,
canon. Yeah, so
from the canon.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think there's a lot of good fan films. I think the first one that really knocked my socks off was that one called Batman Dead End.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that looked
Yeah, I was just like, wow, that should have been a Batman film.
Mm-hmm. Which
so good.
Yeah, so it's amazing with the the ability with the fans to actually come in and do some of the fundraising via different sites. And probably when we get back from this bottom of the hour break, we'll talk a little bit about that and your projects and funding situations. And so
I want to pick his brain on a few issues if he has time.
Yeah, so you're listening to Spaceboy Universe, and this is Spaceboy with Surlana and Joe Grissafi, and we'll be right back after this. Spaceboy.
listening to Spaceboy Universe. Now here are your hosts, Spaceboy and Surlana.
All right, just a reminder to our audience that we're under our new scheduling, which means that we go all the way to midnight tonight. If Joe is up for the challenge, he is more than welcome to stay with us. And now,
if not, we'll talk about him behind his back. So, Joe, I know we've gushed over Lars and the Emo Kid, and I'm looking forward now. You'll get us hooked on Conjoined. So, talk about your excitement or your upcoming involvement with The Cabin.
The Cabin is a short film that Amanda Diane has written.
Who?
Don't act like that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. I know she's out there listening.
She was in our Spreaker chat for a minute there.
She's an actress here in Houston. She wrote this short script for herself to star in, which I think is a great idea for actors to do. And she asked me to direct it after she watched Conjoined, I believe it was. And I was thrilled to be asked. And I read it, and I thought, no, this would be fun to do. It's certainly the most graphic, possibly the most graphic thing I've done in the horror genre.
Yes.
Because of some of the gags that are in it, some of the effects that are in it, and I thought that's going to be a real challenge. I'm up for that. And it's just an honor to have someone watch your work and say, hey, I want to work with you, and I want you to be my director. I'm hoping that happens more often, so thank you, Amanda, for recognizing the work and asking me. We're trying to crowdfund it right now. Earlier, I think off the air, we talked about it. We're pretty close to where we need to be. We hope to shoot it this year, hopefully in November. And Amanda's going to play the villain, the witch. We have not cast the two young actors yet. Larry McKee, who's a really incredibly talented director of photography, is going to shoot it for us. And Molly Vernon has come on board as first AD to help us run smoothly. And there's a couple of crew positions that we haven't filled yet. What our intention is to film it at the house that my mother grew up in East Texas.
Oh, wow.
That's kind of exciting. The house that her father actually built himself, as the story goes, with boxcar wood. They took an old train and took the wood off and built this house with the wood from a train, a boxcar.
Wow.
And I remember going to this house as a child, and you could still see the logos from the side of the train on the house.
That's kind of cool.
Since then, my mother it was very cool. Since then, my mother decided to paint the place red. I was so upset, saying, "Oh, Mom, you covered the train, the company logos that were on the side of the train. Oh, that was so cool." But I guess you got to weather protect the house, so it was probably a smart thing to do. But it's just it was so unique with the boxcar wood. If it was still like that and we shot this film, it would look incredible. People would just go, "Is that really from a train?" Yes, it is. Excuse me. So we're going to shoot this film in the cabin. Hopefully it'll go pretty quickly. And it's going to be a festival piece. It's going to be something for Amanda to showcase what she can do. Now it'll be something for me to showcase what I can do with this effects-driven material. And beyond that, we'll probably take advantage of the Roku channels like we talked about earlier. It'll ultimately end up on YouTube. We're really going to try to get this thing out there, which I think every filmmaker should be doing, because there's so many opportunities to get your films out to the public and actually make a little bit of money. You know, it is very possible that the short film could generate a little income. I'm not talking about getting its budget back, but it could buy us all lunch over some time. You know,
you get fed
for one day
at least, right?
the thing about these Roku channels is they're ad-based, and a lot of the channels are sharing the revenue with the filmmakers. And I think I'm sure Champion Entertainment will put it on, and it'll make a few pennies from commercials. And yeah.
And when that, so you'll start filming. You will keep us updated about when it gets released or where and when.
Oh, sure, absolutely. I think Amanda and I both will be pushing it heavily once it's done, and we should.
All right, great.
And we'll certainly let you know.
Well, before Solana takes off here again, that would be a great opportunity. That once you've got it all done and said and done, I'm sure at some point both of y'all would we would love to have you both come on the show and talk about the project, so that it's just another stepping stone,
some more
buzz for it.
Yeah,
that would be great. I know I would, and it sounds like Amanda would too. The story, I don't want to go into too much detail about the story, but Amanda will tell you that she wanted to see how far, if I'm recalling her explanation correctly, what's the most horrible thing a witch could do in this situation? I don't know if she's told you the plot of the film, but it's pretty bad and I'm excited to be filming some of those gags.
Mm-hmm.
The gags. Christy Bowl is on board doing the effects. I think she's actually building them now, so they're ready to go when we get the complete funding. Christy, if you're not familiar with her, she's a really, really talented special effects artist in town. Probably one of the best. And there's 3, 4, or 5 people that do effects here.
Mm-hmm.
Christy's probably at the top of that list. She's done everything I've seen her do is incredible, and she's so humble about it. And it's like she doesn't know how good she really is. And I'm really excited to work with her. I've known her for several years. We've worked on some projects before, but this is the first time that she's actually built stuff for me. And it's just such a great thrill to be able to work with someone like her.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing this because it sounds.
It's going to be, the effects are going to be good, and the effects are really going to sell to get people to watch the film. When people, the effects are going to make the film. The acting is it's a piece to highlight Amanda, but the effects are really going to sell the film.
Well, as a director and a person who watches movies, what do you think are the elements, or does it take to make a good horror film?
Oh gosh, that's probably debatable. Everyone's going to give you a different answer.
Well, your opinion is.
To me, it comes down to a good script. What makes a good horror film? I think one of my favorite films, if you ask me what my top 5 movies would be, one of the top 5 is going to be Creepshow.
Uh-huh.
In my opinion, I think Creepshow is great because it's funny, and it's still scary, and it's still gory, but it has a sense of humor about it, which is important to me. That's why I think a great horror film needs to have some element of humor. A lot of people might disagree. I mean, I saw The Exorcist at the movie theater not too long ago when they brought it back. I don't remember anything funny in the film at all. So some opinions are going to differ, but I like films that have humor, not slapstick comedy for a horror film, but I want to care about the characters. When something horrible happens to them, if you care about them, it's even worse,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Friday the 13th, it has millions of fans all over the world. But a lot of the sequels, you don't care about these people. You just want to see them. A lot of fans just want to see them get hacked up. And that's fine. That they might still, they want to see the body count. And that's fine. That's still, they'll think that's a great horror film, and it's a totally valid opinion. But it's even more intense if you care about the people that they're getting hacked up. If you cared about these people, it would be even more impactful. but some people just want to see the really gory effects, and that's fine. For me, a good horror film has some kind of humor, and I care about the people.
I think the only one I've seen was like maybe Evil Dead, the third one. You know, where he goes back in time.
The Army of Darkness.
That was, that became a comedy. You know, Evil Dead 2. I'm going to put Evil Dead 2 up in my top 10 because I just adore that movie.
Well, Sam Raimi, did what was that other one that he did where it was this woman and I guess she was cursed, but and then I guess
it's a more recent one. Yeah, she's blonde.
A blonde one, and
Drag Me to Hell.
I think that's what it is. It has
there it is. Yeah, Drag Me to Hell.
In a lot of it, and it had a lot of the
that was crazy
Evil Dead kind of feel to it as far as the but it had that element of it's kind of funny in that sense. So, but I was going to bring this up. Since we're kind of the same age, Joe, that going from the '70s movies and horror were more dramatic and in that sense, and then you hit the '80s and it became kind of campy and
gore.
I wished I could remember the '90s, but then you get to the more recent
'90s.
times.
I think the '90s dominated by Scream.
The Scream queens, So and then you get to modern times where horror movies are more like pages like right out of the news, where it doesn't possess a certain, I don't want to say comedic, but something parts where it makes you laugh.
Deep psychological things,
it's like,
Yeah,
I mean...
If you finish like going, geez, let's watch something funny so I can get this out of my psyche,
So what say you over the span of horrors, your take on that?
No, you're right. Every decade has changed, and I did grow up in the '70s watching the horror films. I was a big fan of the eco-terror films, the H.G. Wells, Empire of the Ants, Food of the Gods. Those were some of my favorite films. I made the mistake of going back to watch Food of the Gods a few years ago. I had such great memories of it as a kid, and then I went back and watched it 4 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I never should have gone. I never should have done this. It ruined all the memories of it.
Because
the effects are so bad.
That's why I was a fan of Mr.
But I remember
Theater.
Friday the 13th, of course, was where things changed, in my opinion. Was that 1980?
About that.
79, 80, or 81. Yeah. I'm forgetting exactly when, but it was about that time. I was an avid reader of Famous Monsters and Eerie and all that stuff, so I remember I didn't get to see the movie for a long time, but I saw all the effects. They showed pictures of how they did all the effects in the first Friday the 13th in these magazines. And then when I finally got to see the movie, it's like, oh, wow, this is really great. And it didn't introduce the slasher film. Of course, that was probably Psycho. But it really took it to a new level with the gore. And then that's what the 80s became. The first Nightmare on Elm Street was pretty graphic.
Yes, indeed.
Again, the 90s is kind of a blur to me, too. It's like I can't remember. I couldn't tell you the music, what some of the movies were. So I didn't really pay too much attention to 90s horror. But then when, I guess the 2000s, torture porn became a big thing, and that became horror. And I'm not a big fan of that.
Right.
Yeah.
To torturing just for the sake of torturing.
Slumber Party Massacre and things like that. Oh,
yeah,
hey.
no, I think that was still the 80s.
We've got a special guest caller, Joe. Caller, are you there?
Oh, no, hey.
Turn your radio down.
Turn your listening device down that you're listening to the show on. Are you there?
I am here.
And it is Jason Ration.
I recognize that voice. Jason, hi.
Hi, I'm listening to the show, but I guess there's a delay because you're talking about horror films.
We still are.
We were talking about horror films 30 minutes ago.
Okay, I was listening to it At first I was concerned because I wasn't sure if I was listening to Spaceboy Universe or the Surlana Chuckle Show.
Oh, ha.
At the very beginning, and then it turned into you guys concerned that there were jet planes trying to attack you.
Yes.
And it had something to do with Serbia, and the show got really dark. And,
I know, I tried to rescue it.
Spaceboy's talking about the end of the world, I don't know. So, but then Joe came on and everything was right in the world. But then I had to...
I do that. I make the world right.
You do. You make the world a better place, Joe. And then
Wait till you see what I have in store November 8th.
Oh, wow. Oh, brother. But no, and then I had to take a short break to play catch up with my folks. I just got home, so they wanted to know about my day. So yeah, but I wanted to. You guys were talking about Lars, the Elmo kid, and I just love Lars, the Elmo kid, because it's such a wonderful film. Especially at the very end when the fairy comes in and turns Elmo into a real boy, which has been his dream.
Yeah, that was,
I
really struggled with that scene being right for the film.
And it was so perfect. It was so perfect.
Here I thought I got the worst of this from Surlana. Thanks, Jason.
Hey, you're welcome.
That's great. Give him a hard time. I was like, I just thought it was weird. Jets were flying over, and he goes down this dark timeline. Like, okay, I'm going to let him get this out of his system, and then I'm going to talk about, hey, there's going to be a dark web film,
Yeah. No, but Lars, I've seen Lars twice now. I saw I think was the second screening at the thing off of the Studio Movie Grill.
Studio Movie Grill, yeah.
And then it was part of a double feature of a web series I produced, and then Joe's at the Alamo Draft House, and that was a fun night. Because the only thing I love more than supporting Joe is somehow incorporating myself into it, promoting about self-promotion. So that was a fun night. So
that was a good night, and
you go.
I'm glad that they invited me to screen.
But it's a really wonderful film, and of course it took a lot out of Joe to make it, and I'm proud of him finishing it, so the world could see how much as a filmmaker and a storyteller he kind of just keeps getting better. And I think that rather than just kind of put on autopilot at this point. So I think it's a universal theme, bullying, high school adolescence. I was bullied a lot in high school. So it was kind of hard to it because of that, because it brought back, the trauma. But despite that, I really enjoyed the film.
Thank you. And I think even though we put it in an emo era, the themes are universal. They're timeless. Every generation dealt with this stuff. It just happens to the kids in this film are wearing makeup. The guys are wearing makeup and look kind of silly. But every generation has dealt with it. It's been fascinating talking to people after they've seen it from every generation. Adults will come and say, I love this. I identify with these kids. And then, of course, teenagers do. And one of my favorite things about the film is it doesn't really try to teach you a lesson. There's a moral there. There's a story there. There's a lesson there if you want to hear it. But there's no preaching. It doesn't tell you that... it doesn't necessarily say doing drugs is wrong. It's saying it could be a wrong decision for you. You need to make these decisions for yourself. The only person that really pays the price is the bully. So it's saying bullying is bad, but all this other stuff you got to figure out for yourself. Here's some situations you could find yourself in if you choose to do them. And I think that makes the movie more powerful because the kids that need to see it are going to pay attention because we're not trying to teach them something.
I wholeheartedly agree. So, with that, and
he's breaking up there.
Oh,
So-
sounds like we're losing you, Jason.
No, Jason, come back!
I'll be right back.
All right.
All right.
So,
Are you still there, Joe?
I'm still here.
Okay, good.
That's the important. As long as we didn't lose Joe.
I didn't touch anything. I'm looking at a picture of Jason in his bow tie. He's still there, so.
There you go. That's right. So I'm back. No, so I really enjoyed it, and I'm Houston is better filmmaking wise because of Joe. I always tell people that if they want to get involved in film in the Houston area, and it can kind of be daunting if you're the new kid, new fish in the pond as it is, and I think I always say to people you need to.
He's breaking up there.
Because there are some people what Joe and I like to do is we like to make their.
Okay.
Jason, you're going in and out.
Yeah, Jason, bad connection.
Yeah.
We're told it's really intense solar flares going on. Oh, he's turned on his video.
I don't know if this will help or not.
Yeah.
I think it'll help the eye candy. Maybe the eye candy will help.
Is he wearing a bow tie?
Oh, you sound better now.
He's fully dressed.
Okay. Yes.
I've put things over the camera of this computer so I can't be seen. So.
Okay.
But I care because I'm still fully dressed too. Usually I'm in my pajamas by now, but I cared so much I stayed fully dressed. Just in case.
I'm totally naked.
Alrighty.
Oh, we need to introduce you to our friend, Gordon Roop. He threatens to not wear pants all the time. Anyway, Jason, you were saying, or do you need you want to say some more about this love fest you have for Joe?
Or is there something else you want to say about my end of the world speech?
Well, no, just Joe is really a great asset to Houston, and he does a lot, and I try to as well, do a lot to help people, because you can get really lost in this big city and not know what to do, and filmmaking is very hard. It's not being a rebel without a crew. Don't believe that. It takes a lot of people to get it out there, and I think sometimes people are too preoccupied just posting on social media, hey, I'm going to make a short or a music video or a feature, just kind of for the sake of that, and then if they actually ever do something, don't know how to get it out there. And I think it's important to finish it.
I think part of there's a handful of, there's a group of people, I'm not talking about anyone specific. There are filmmakers who get excited and they get motivated by posting about their films while they announce their films, and while they're in production, when they constantly post about this on social networking like Facebook, it's very exciting and motivating, and you get a lot of support with the comments and the likes, and it makes you feel like you're doing something. Well, then you have all these people wanting to work with you. You have the excitement of the crew, and then you hit post-production, and a lot of that goes away. And I think that's where we lose a lot of people. I think that's where the momentum goes away in post-production, because post is pretty lonely. You don't have a lot of people around you. You don't have that energy. And I think that's where a lot of filmmakers lose steam, or not a lot, some. And then they lose interest in it, and then they have to make a new film to get that excitement back. And then, of course, the other film gets lost or gets neglected.
Joe and Jason, as filmmakers, which do you think at any point makes or break the film? Is it the acting, if something goes wrong there, or is it editing? I've recently discovered, in my own small way, I've done some work on the side to try to help make someone a music film trailer, and it seems like I made some choices to try to help the person look better, and it really worked out. So I suppose there's any number of places where a project could break down. Which do you think is probably the most important?
Well, you're right saying that it could break down anywhere. Editing can kill an otherwise good film. One of the things I see is inadequate casting in some films. And I gave a presentation at Prime Camera Wednesday, and I kind of focused on this instead of the actual technical production of the film. A lot of people don't know where to find the best actors, so they use Craigslist or they just post on Facebook that they're casting this film. And they'll get actors, but the best actors in town aren't necessarily sitting on Facebook looking for auditions. I think directors need to dig deeper to find really solid casts. And because at the end of the day, that's all you have on the screen is your actor or your special effects. And if your actors are not the best, it hurts the film. I mean, the film can still survive, but if you get solid actors up there, it can be dynamite, especially if you have a really great script. And you can, if you want to go, the film could fall apart from the script. The filmmaker may not have a very good script. It could fall apart right from the beginning and never have a chance because the script just wasn't good in the first place. One thing, I had a conversation with a filmmaker a couple of weeks ago. I think, Jason, you may have even been there, where that topic came up. And my suggestion was you don't have to write your own script. There's a lot of writer-directors. Well, there's a lot of material. There's a lot of good material out there that's just looking to be made, and these writers will often give it to you just to see it get done.
Yes.
And if you write your own material and you're new, if you're experienced and you're writing your own stuff, you know what to do. You know what to cut. You know when something's not working. But if you're new and you're writing a script, you think it's gold. And
yes,
when it's not, and you shoot that script, no one's going to tell you it's not really that good, and then you keep moving forward, and then you end up with a lousy movie because nobody was honest with you, and right. Then obviously it fell apart at the beginning. You never had a chance.
Yeah, I think and again it goes back to you need a lot of people like Acid Test, which was a short I did earlier this year. We saw a lot of talent, and a lot of times it was like, okay, we have to. It's between these 3 or 4 actors or actresses for this role, and I can't decide. I can't figure out. And I think that goes. You have to kind of go back to your community, because and get feedback from. Okay, which of these looks right? Which one handled. Think did the best take. Also, handle direction during the auditions and stuff like that. So I honestly, and also a lot of it's pre-production, I think is the most important thing you can do. Editing I find is amazing because you can. I have a friend who edits, and I'll say I think I'd like to do this and that, and they'll go, well, that's fine, but what if we do this instead, and it makes the scene so much better. And then I really like when people take like someone took Office Space and cut a trailer of scenes from it, making it like a thriller. And editing can save the film. Yeah. So and never underestimate your editor. So
right.
There's not one thing. It's this weird ensemble of people and magic and technology coming together to make beautiful art, and it's an amazing thing when it works.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of things have to go right. I know they could go wrong, but even when you get it right, it seems like it's a miracle.
Yes. Well, and I think on the show...
Because it's so rare. It's so rare for everything to go right.
Well, Amanda talked about it in the previous podcast. No one sets out to make a bad movie. And you were talking about that where the guy said this was just supposed to be a student film. This wasn't supposed to be a bad movie.
Yeah.
And it turns into something. And the other thing is, just because a couple people say it's a bad movie, that's just those people,
Subjective.
like when... Yeah, it's objective. When Empire Records came out, the critics absolutely trashed it, and now it's a cult film. When Big Trouble in Little China came out, it was easily dismissed. And they show that once a year, twice a year at the River Oaks at midnight. So that's the other thing you got to keep in mind when you make a film is the long game. Is just because a handful of people didn't like it doesn't mean it will find an audience somewhere. So you have to keep that in mind.
Right, and that being said, if you make a film and you're getting a couple of bad reviews, don't let that stop you, because it is just an opinion. And hey, if you keep hearing the same thing over and over again, pay attention to that, whether it's good or bad. But if you keep getting bad reviews, but they keep bringing up the same thing, there's a lesson to be learned there if you're paying attention. I remember when I released my first film, Laughing Boy, it got lots of bad reviews, and I fought them. I was like, you don't understand what it takes to make a film. You know what? And then as you mature as a filmmaker, you realize it doesn't matter if they don't know what it takes to make a film. It matters if they enjoyed that 90 minutes with your material. Doesn't matter how much you spent, what the blood, sweat, and tears that went into it. Were they entertained?
Exactly.
That's all that matters. So you can't take the bad reviews. Some of my films have received bad reviews, and now I'm really good friends with the reviewers. You can't take that stuff personally.
And would you say
a lot of first-time filmmakers do.
Would you say that's probably the most important lesson you've learned out of your experience in film? Not to take it personally.
It is a very important lesson. Not take it personally. Have thick skin. It's not an attack. If it was an attack, you would know it. But bad reviews are not an attack on you as a person. It's just a criticism of your film, and they're all reviews, with the exception of some, are legit. I'm not thinking of the right word, but they have value. It's an opinion and not an attack, unless there's other things behind the scenes.
But that's difficult to learn.
Recently. That's
difficult to learn, not to take it personally, or not to feel completely defeated when you've got a lot of that criticism. Maybe it's more than 3 people, or maybe it's a review from some big name, big newspaper.
Oh, it's very hard, because just like a stage play, when a show gets a bad review, it hurts, because you put so much of your life into it. You put so much time into this. They've only spent maybe whatever the runtime of your film is. That's all they've spent with it. But in my case, if I get a bad, they don't bother me anymore. We released Conjoined hoping to get bad reviews, because we wanted to make that part of the fun of the marketing, is putting bad quotes on the packaging. But that didn't work out. They were pretty much all good. But again, Laughing Boy got a lot of bad reviews, and I started to take it personally at the beginning, and then I slowly matured to think, no, I can't take it personally. It's what they thought of it. They don't know me. But I put so much of my money and time and heart into making the film, and it hurts. You get over it, though. Dead of Night and Conjoined. Dead of Night got a couple of bad reviews. I didn't care. Conjoined got a couple of bad reviews. I didn't care. Lars has yet to be seen, because the 2 or 3 reviews we did receive have been good. But I'm sure there's going to be someone out there that doesn't like it. Like the one podcaster that came to see it in Austin, he liked the movie, but he hated the ending. He absolutely hated the ending. But I don't care. It's his opinion. Doesn't mean it's bad.
And then you've got
Doesn't
3
mean
awards to
doesn't
prove
mean I did a bad
otherwise.
job. He just didn't like it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you've got those
So-
accolades still to, for every person who doesn't like it, you can take that award and throw it at their head.
Nah, if they don't like it, they don't like it. I'm not going to argue with them and try to convince them otherwise. And I've seen filmmakers do that. They get a bad review, and then they start these online arguments. You don't know what it took to make this, and we worked so hard. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And more importantly, you look like a fool trying to argue with a reviewer that panned your movie. You look amateurish.
Mm-hmm.
So don't do it.
And I meet some. I used to be a film critic. And I've met some of these people, and they sometimes just go into a movie ready to trash it. Like they've actually prepared the review in advance. They're just they already wrote the review before they saw it, ready to pounce on it.
The film never had a chance in some cases.
Yeah, so they're ready. They can't wait to have a funny little thing about, I liked it better when they called it blah, 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 or, hey, so, and so it's kind of, for them, it's like a way to vent or something. So sometimes, that's the other thing, is like, they're just not gonna like it. They're already knew in their mind how they felt about it, so.
Right, and consider this. We don't have a lot at stake financially in our films compared to Hollywood. Hollywood spends a lot of money catering and getting on the good side of these critics. What is there, a National Critics Society that gathers in L.A. every year, and all these actors kiss the critics' butts, and just so they can try to get good reviews, get on their good side for future reviews. A bad review doesn't really hurt my film because nobody really knows about my film. It's not big enough to really be concerned. So, and a lot of these reviewers that are going to look at a lot of the reviewers, and this is not a knock on them, but a lot of the bloggers that write about independent films, with the exception of some of the major horror sites, they're just like me. They have a small following, and they have a small circle of influence. We need, if they give us a good review, we're going to share it with the world. If you get a bad review, you just ignore it because it didn't affect that many people. It really doesn't affect your film. A lot of the stuff you read, a lot of the reviews you read on Amazon when people review the films there, a lot of that's nonsense, and people just tune it out anyway because it's not, you can't make any sense of it. They don't really, to say, this film sucks so bad, it just sucks, it's the worst film I've ever seen, that has no weight to me. Shouldn't have any weight to anybody because if you can't say why you didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to tune out the extremes. If someone really loves it, I think that's the same as someone really hating it. I think in some cases I want the people that hate it to be the most vocal, because people tend to gravitate towards the hate. And if someone says this movie was so bad, it's the worst film I've ever seen, some people might go check it out just for that.
Yeah, I would.
I've got to see the worst film ever. There's one Houston-made film. His trailer, I'm not going to say the name of the film, because his trailer got ripped off by some YouTube channel that posts movie trailers. And his trailer topped 1 million views, which is crazy for an independent film trailer, a local film. The trailer got over 1 million views, and it got over 1 million views because everybody was laughing at it. All the comments were bad, and people had to go. That made people watch it. And it's like, oh, there's got to be. And he kind of tried to embrace that situation and use it in his marketing. because if that many people hate your film, that's a lot of people who are going to watch it to laugh at it. And you could laugh all the way to the bank.
No such thing as bad press as,
No, there's really not. Unless you're Jared from Subway.
Well, yeah. You know what I'm saying? As long as they're talking about it, they're talking about it,
No, exactly. I want the people that hate my film to tell everybody that they hate my film, whatever film that is. I want people that love it to tell people they love it, but I want people that hate it to tell everybody. I jokingly say, if you like my movie, tell a friend. If you hate it, tell two.
Yeah. Well, they're talking about the worst movie. You're saying, like, somebody maybe said, what if that's one of your projects is the worst movie ever made? And they're talking about in our Spreaker chat, like Amanda said, oh, it had to be Manos. And I'm like, have you ever seen Birdemic? I don't think so. So that may be...
Birdemic is so bad, but
yeah.
you wonder...
Birdemic
is one of those where you wonder if they really... Did they really...
intend for that?
Did they make it intentionally bad? Because you can't possibly think that you're doing a good job when you're making that film.
Because if it was intentional, that's kind of brilliant.
It's absolutely brilliant if it's intentional, but
come on,
I love that movie. That's the kind of movie that you got to watch it with a bunch of friends.
At animated GIFs of birds. They're clearly nowhere in the scene. They didn't even try to get the jagged edges from around the GIFs.
I know. It's so great. That movie is so great.
Of course, we saw it Riff Tracks live, and they just eviscerated it as it should have been, and it was just the best time of my life because I can no longer say the phrase "hanging out around my husband," or he'll start singing that song. Hanging out with my family.
I haven't seen Tommy Wiseau's The Room.
Oh, Riff Tracks Live. We went to see it.
I know of it. I know it's showing at River Oaks in a few weeks. But I can't stay up that late anymore.
No, you have to see the Riff Tracks Live version, which you can buy.
Well, I would. When he was making that film, I'm sure he thought, I'm making the next, Citizen Kane or the next whatever great American film. I'm sure, it's and Joel Schumacher just recently came out and said when he made Batman Robin, he thought he was making the Batman movie everyone wanted to see. When he was making that, he thought audiences are going to love this. He had no idea. So I think you just as my mom says, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
But you have, on the other hand...
I would love to...
Sorry. Spaceboy's always telling me, Ed Wood, he made those movies because he loved to do it, but they were, in my opinion, like Plan 9. Plan 9 was the first Riff Tracks Live we saw, and it was just like, what is this? Is this a student film? I don't get it. It just... of course, Mr. Lobo's always saying these aren't bad movies, they're misunderstood.
Yes.
Well, it's people with more passion and talent, and
yes,
that has a lot of value.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
They're so passionate about it, but they don't have a clue. You got to give it to them, though. You got to take your hat off to them for doing it. I would love to have a Birdemic or a Room in my filmography, and I would not mind being famous for something like that if it allowed me to keep doing this.
Famous is famous, huh?
Famous is famous, and job's
job's a job.
Anything to keep it going. That Tommy Wiseau, I'm sure he knows it's not a good movie now.
Oh, he knows, yeah.
But he's embracing it. He's not fighting it. He's not denying it. He's not bitter about it.
There's a video game based on the movie, and it's hilarious.
I gotta look that up.
Yeah, go to YouTube and look up The Room video game. It's like a little 8-bit.
James Franco is making a movie about the making of The Room, and I think Franco.
Oh my God!
I read that somewhere. If it's not already made,
I think I heard that too.
Yeah,
that's going to be great.
Which would just make a great
because
double.
There's so much in that movie that's so funny. Like the guys playing football on the roof, like 3 feet apart or 4 feet apart. It's just fascinating.
In tuxedo.
They could have called it The Roof too. So I mean.
Yeah, they could have.
My sister has a question. She wants to know what either one of you think about Neil Breen's films.
Oh, is he the one who did I Am Here Now and is that the guy?
I'll have to look him up real
He's
quick.
the architect who does movies on the side.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm familiar with him.
Let me look that up real quick. I've not heard of it either, or heard of him either. My sister has a gift for the obscure.
If he's the guy I'm thinking of.
I'll have to get her to see what that is. But I'm also, somebody asked, why the Hamburger Man? Do you know what that reference is?
I do know what that reference is. That's my eBay handle I still use. And it's from a Cheech and Chong movie when Paul Rubens is the Hamburger Man. When they're in the insane asylum and Paul Rubens, who is also Pee Wee Herman, is running around going, "I'm the Hamburger Man." That's where I got that from.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of stuck. It's my eBay handle since eBay was new, and I use it on. I used it on Facebook, not realizing it was going to be permanent. So if you go to facebook.com/hamburgerman, that's where you find me, my public page. Facebook.com/Joe Grissafi is my professional fan page. But that's the history of my using Hamburger Man.
Okay, I've just gotten a link to IMDb for Neil Breen. He's known for Double Down, I Am Here, Pass Through, Fateful Findings. I don't know if any of those ring a bell.
Okay, yeah, okay, so this is very interesting. There's a YouTube channel called Bad Movies, and it's this guy up in Canada, very funny guy, and he watches bad movies and then talks about them. And he's done 2 on Neil, I Am Here Now and Finder Things. And they're just so, I'm just seeing like a synopsis of them, and he's showing an example of why this is a bad movie, and they are pretty bad. And he writes, stars, directs, produces all these films, and they're very, he said it best, if Tommy Wiseau and Citizen Kane is if The Room is the Citizen Kane of bad movies, then he is Orson Welles. Then this other guy is like the David Lynch of bad movies, because his movies are bad and they're just so weird, like left field. They have
Sounds awesome.
Yeah. But this is the thing about the guy. He's like an architect and then kind of a real estate agent, and he uses the money he makes doing that as his day job to finance his films. And he has full craft services. He pays all his crew and everything and his actors. So I give him props for that. And he makes these very weird, bad movies. And I even showed a clip to my folks, and my dad's like, "Wow, that's pretty bad." So yeah, he's getting a following now, like Tommy Wiseau, where but Tommy just kind of peaked with The Room and said, okay, with the exception of one other thing, I don't think Tommy's done anything. This guy's done 4 or 5 movies, and he's fine with people saying they stink because they're getting a reputation now, a cult following, because they're bad. So
now I wonder what would happen if he ended up making a decent movie. Would people not care about it? Because if they're following him and wanting the films to be bad, he has to, and he learns and grows as a filmmaker and actually makes something that's good. Are those people going to like it?
Abandon him.
Yeah, they may abandon him, or that would be a fascinating study to see that happen.
So you two would you say that film or movies is the most compelling storytelling format, or would I be pigeonholing you unfairly?
I think...
You go first, Joe. You go first.
For a long time, I would say hands down. I mean, books still influence a lot of people, but I think movies reach more people. But you could argue now that video games are becoming incredibly popular, maybe taking over where movies were.
Yeah.
Because I believe video games are more lucrative than films now. And the storytelling in video games is often better than a lot of films.
Well, that seems to, but people are wanting more story-driven games, along with the high resolution and the look and the feel and the soundtrack. And people, one of my favorite things from back in the day, my early nerdhood, was Doom, the game Doom. And when the latest one just came out, people trashed it a little bit because of its lack of story development. I'm like, well, original Doom was not about stories, about going in and killing demons and a lot of blood and gore, and they delivered on it. And that's what I expect. So that's the one way where that just sort of like that's a test of people expect more from games now than just going in and doing.
They really
task.
do, and I think people, it's when the writing's good in a video game, people are even more engaged than in a film because they are that character. They're
teaching
the story.
This now. There's a place where I work at a university, and they're teaching story writing for games.
Right. Yes.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
Because you're kind of in control of the game. Of course, you can't influence the cutscenes unless your action in the game makes the game choose which cutscene you see. But you're involved. You're an active participant in the story versus just a passive participant watching the film. I used to play Resident Evil a lot on the PlayStation 2. I think it was Veronica X. There were a couple on the PlayStation 2 that I was really involved with. The voice acting wasn't very good, but because I was involved in the game was more intense and scarier than a lot of films around that era that I had seen. There were times when the game actually made me jump out of my seat. The scare was so good, and a film hasn't done that to me for quite a while.
I've seen some games. I've not played them, but I've watched other people play them on YouTube, and I will get so into it. I get frustrated when they don't go ahead and post the next chapter or whatever of their gameplay they're doing. I'm in a situation like that. I'm like, when are you going to post the second part of you playing this game? Because it was that good. It was just sort of like figure out how to get from A to B, and then things happen between. So,
right. And there was a game on the PlayStation 2 called Ico. It's one of my favorite games ever, and they re-released it on the PS3 in high definition, and I started replaying it recently. But it was the first video game to actually make me cry at the end.
Oh yeah.
Because I was so involved with these two characters when it ended, and what happened at the end, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And I actually started crying because of the storytelling was so good.
People cried at the first Walking Dead video game, I heard.
Oh yeah, I haven't played that one yet.
Yeah, because it's not the same.
Dead.
It's not the same people that are on the show, well, except for the Michonne one. But I watched a really famous YouTuber, PewDiePie, play. He got through the end because you got involved with the characters, the storyline, and people died, and they had to be put down before they became zombies, and it was just this really emotional thing. And it was following this little girl around, and she's kind of having to grow up in the zombie. You follow her central character around, and people that come in and out of her life, and it's just very poignant. And she has to make some hard decisions. She even you have to make the decision as her whether or not to shoot your best friend and caregiver that's been with you the whole time.
Right. That sounds cool.
Yeah, go on YouTube and you look at it. It's the first one. It was it's centered around a little girl. Can't remember her name, but I think that's another way. The gaming is another way to put stories out there, I guess, so you can really get people engaged. And all this is leading up to things I'm not really supposed to talk about because my husband doesn't like me to mention classic literature. because I'm not supposed to speak the words Jane Austen in this household, but
oh no,
with it talking about storytelling in new ways. One of the things that I saw in 2012, 2013 that blew my socks off was a retelling of Pride and Prejudice, modern, as a vlog installment. The girl vlogged her life for a graduate school project, but it was the plot of Pride and Prejudice. So I was
I'm
wondering,
not familiar with
it's
that.
called the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, and it's on YouTube. It'll be there forever. It's free. It's awesome. They've tried to do other the same. The guy who started VidCon, is it not John Green? His other one, Hank Green. Hank Green started VidCon. It was Hank Green's idea to do the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, and it was just sort of an experiment to see if it happened.
So it wasn't this woman. She didn't decide to do a vlog. He came up with the concept.
He came up with a concept to retell Pride and Prejudice in in modern day times in America, but do it in a new format. And I actually wrote a conference paper about it. I won't get into that because who cares. But that was like a way to bring a very well-known and beloved concept story to a whole new format. Nobody had done this on YouTube as a pseudo vlog. She was just telling you about her life through a vlog, and her life was the plot of Pride and Prejudice. But she was doing the reason she was vlogging it was she was a grad student in media arts or something like that, and she was doing it as part of her thesis.
Interesting. I'm gonna look it up.
And you don't even see the guy who plays Darcy till episode 60. She just talks about him like he's this annoying character in her life she keeps running into. So it's very interesting. I would be interested to see what, as filmmakers, what your take is on that in this new format.
Yeah, because I like Jane Austen. So much to your husband's chagrin, which is surprising because I did not like Love and Friendship. Did you see Love and Friendship?
I heard about it. It's on my wish list to find it and watch it somewhere. But
I like the guy who did it. He did Metropolitan, I think it was called, back in the early. It was one of the first big indie films.
That's Kate Beckinsale in it with a Love and Friendship.
Yeah. I did not care for it, and I love me some Jane Austen. Did not care for it. So don't go in with high expectations.
No,
that's my little advice. Because I went in and I was very disappointed with it.
And we talked about, Jason and I, in your Data Bites interview, had the only Kate Beckinsale movie I've liked to date was Cold Comfort Farm, and that was just brilliant comedy.
I saw something nasty in the woodshed.
Yes. That's a great. That was based on a book as well. That was a nice adaptation of a book. And there's also, Jason, a very salacious version of Cold Comfort Farm on YouTube that came out in the 60s, but they said it was an excuse just to show some skin, and it's very, very raunchy.
Well, I might skip that one. But going back to video games, I'm not a gamer myself. That's a rabbit hole I never went down. I think I peaked at Zelda, The Legend of Zelda, and
right.
So that was it for me in the late 80s. But what I do find interesting about gaming is, and I might have to cut it short here in a second, is that it's a kind of community thing where you and your friend Tim and Robin and Jennifer and everything get together, and you stop the terrorist cell, or you stop the aliens, or you stop the zombies or the vampires or whatever have you, and it's kind of a group thing. You work together to
and you don't even have to be in the same room now. You can do it all online.
Yeah,
and communicate with each other and work together.
So it takes that. That's what I find interesting. Versus when Joe and I were playing Super Mario Brothers: The Legend of Zelda, it's just you and the other player next to you, maybe with the controllers. Versus now it can be like you all on your headsets in different parts of the world working together. So that part. The only thing about gaming, and I subscribe to a YouTube channel called Feminist Frequency, and they discuss how I don't want to say sexist, but very, if you're a guy, you have all these options of the kind of a character you want to be, versus if you're a woman, it's these three kind of objectified ideas of what a woman should look like, and so that's the thing about gaming. I think they need to work on. For me, I think I would, if I had to choose between gaming, obviously, I would choose film. The only thing I think, as far as art, that can really touch you is music. Perfect example is I was watching an old Sherlock Holmes with my folks, and kind of in the middle of the movie, one of the characters starts singing an old Scottish song. And my mother, who's part Irish but grew up in a poor Scottish coal mining town, remembered that song, and she just started singing it in her Scottish brogue, which she's never done before. So kind of that music transported her back to her childhood, and she remembered that song. And so for the next couple of days, we would occasionally play that song, and she would sing to it. So I think that's the great thing about a song. It can take you back to your prom, your first kiss, your wedding day, or just the song you're listening to after a bad breakup, or maybe when you were in the car with your friends and you all started, even though you weren't a Nirvana fan, you just started, breaking out to Nevermind. So I think music can just kind of take you to a place, kind of that you all of a sudden.
So you would say, Jason and Joe, the soundtrack of your productions are just as important as anything else.
Oh, yes. I mean,
Oh, it absolutely can be. I mean, Lars is a good example for me. The music became a character in the film. And when you heard what we'll call the Lars theme, I'm forgetting the name of the actual classical piece offhand, you kind of knew what you were supposed to feel with this character. It was the first time I actually used music to kind of manipulate the audience's feelings, and my girlfriend Sarah and I would often joke about how music, and it's true, music is used to manipulate the audience's feelings. It's there to tell you what you're supposed to feel. Well, I don't think I went that far with it, but we did play with that a little, especially with the theme we used for Lars. He's sad. Here comes this theme, this piece of music, and it worked pretty well for us. But music can become a character in the film, yes. I think especially the Marvel films are being criticized for the music kind of being forgettable.
No.
If you go back to Christopher Reeve's Superman and even Michael Keaton, Tim Burton Batman, that score. You can't think of it now. When you hear it, you will know. Yeah, John Williams, Danny Elfman. You know what these guys are. You can place it. The song as a character. It had when the Superman theme starts playing, it invokes a feeling, no matter if you're watching the film or just hearing the piece of music. And I think a lot of films these days have lost that.
And when you talk about good soundtracks and films and things that one enhances the other, I always go back to 2001: A Space Odyssey, because as my two classical pieces love, also Sprach Zarathustra and The Blue Danube. Those are like my two greatest pieces of classical music that I love, right there together in the same film.
Right, and I use classical pieces in Lars, the emo kid, for two specific reasons. One, it was cheap. You can buy royalty-free pieces for $30, $40, $50 and never have to pay anything else ever. But also, it's familiar. You like the 2001 pieces. When you hear, the music. It makes the scene more familiar. We don't have actors that but when you hear the piece of music, suddenly it becomes real. because it's not an original score that you're hearing for the first time. You identify with that piece of music. Like we use Pachelbel's Canon in D for the Grape Lady scene, and it invokes a laugh. It emphasizes the scene because people know the piece of music, and in a lot of cases, I was thinking of Looney Tunes cartoons when I was placing the music, because a lot of the Looney Tunes are funny. You identify with a piece. You hear a classical piece that was in a Bugs Bunny cartoon, and you instantly remember that Bugs Bunny cartoon.
That's how I learned about classical music, was through Bugs Bunny cartoons and
Yes,
Broadway
yes,
and vaudeville.
It makes it familiar. And that was really important to me, making a film that, we don't have, like I said, we don't have actors we know. I'm lucky that people are going to watch it in the first place, but suddenly they hear this piece of music that they know, and it's like, hey, I'm comfortable here. I feel like I've been here.
Yeah, I totally agree. And actually, I have to leave on that note. Great talking to you guys. Great listening to you, Joe, and all.
You too, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
All right.
You've been listening to the Jason and Joe Show, and that was great. That was like we got him for free or something,
Jason, a bonus. You get a bonus Jason ration tonight.
Well, the last thing I'd like to ask you is someone who has been in the film industry as, an actor, producer, director, and as someone that watches film. I just recently read this article, and it discusses how Hollywood feels threatened by a possible monopoly from Netflix. And what this is someone named John Landgraf said that he was warned that Netflix could be bucking for a Silicon Valley-style near monopoly in entertainment that is enjoyed by like Google and Amazon right now, and he thinks it would be bad for storytellers in general if one company such as Netflix was able to seize 40, 50, or 60% of the share in storytelling. What is your thoughts on that?
I haven't thought about that too much, but I know I've read these articles. I think every decade or every now and then a new technology would come through and say it's going to change Hollywood, and it did not happen. Netflix is the first one that actually is influencing the entire industry. It just started as a simple DVD rental service, which shut down Blockbuster. Mm-hmm. It instantly had an effect on the industry, a big impact, because Blockbuster shut down and ended that almost monopoly. Now Netflix is creating incredible content and giving it to you all at once. You don't have to wait till next week to watch the next episode of whatever show you're watching on Netflix, House of Cards, or whatever show you're watching. We've recently binged Wet Hot American Summer a couple of times. They give it to you all at once, and we're all waiting for the next season of Orange is the New Black, and a lot of people are going to watch it in 2 days. And of course, it eliminates the commercial income.
Right.
I don't know the business model well at all, but you can see the changes it's had. It's introduced binge watching that really was not a thing. I'd never heard that term before until Netflix became incredibly popular. I'm sure people used to buy DVDs and sit and watch the whole series at once, but Netflix introduced the term binge watching to me. And I think it's affecting. If it makes everyone work harder, if it makes Hollywood start to create more original content, fantastic. I'm all for Netflix taking over, especially if they involve independent films. My fear is if Netflix takes over, they're not going to include us. and when I released Laughing Boy in 2000 or 2001, we got a small Netflix deal. You could get my DVD through Netflix. Since then, it's been very hard for small filmmakers like myself to get in, mainly because the market is so flooded and they can't take everything. I'm looking into streaming. It might be a little easier to get on Netflix if you're streaming because it doesn't take up any warehouse space. I think that was the issue in the past with the physical product. So it could help us a lot, actually, if Netflix, you know what? I shouldn't say that because I just don't know that side of the business well enough to even have an opinion. I would hope that they would include more small films. But then again, because there are so many small films being made, there's a lot of them. A lot of them are bad and should not be on Netflix or anywhere, because it would hurt if Netflix started including all these bad movies. No one's gonna. People are gonna look at the service in a poor light. But yeah, so I haven't really thought of it too much how it's going to affect the industry because I don't really know the inside story. But you can see some of the effects with their original programming getting, didn't they create a new category for the Emmys?
I'm not sure.
For Netflix?
I haven't watched the Emmys in years or any award shows. I know they did.
I thought one of the award shows had to make an adjustment to include Netflix programming.
Yeah, because it's not like a network that's on TV. They had to include. I know the Emmys had to include new media, which means like YouTube and to recognize these new versions that were out there making good content.
Right. It's a fascinating time to be a filmmaker because of all this, and if you really got to pay attention and keep up with the news, industry news, to really know what's going on. And I'm guilty of not doing that. And in some cases, I feel like I'm falling behind a little on the because I'm not keeping up with the latest and greatest thing, whether it's a camera or a platform for viewing. But it's a fascinating time to be a filmmaker just because there are so many possibilities.
And are you doing everything digitally with your filming?
Yeah, my films are all shot with digital cameras. I haven't shot film.
Do you miss film?
1998.
Do you miss doing it on film? Or?
I do. I miss film for the same reasons I miss the sound of the projector. It was just you really felt like a filmmaker because you handled the cans of film and you had someone loading the camera in the tent, the film tent, so that it didn't get exposed. And there's a lot I miss about it. Of course, there's a lot I don't miss about it. Laughing Boy cost me close to $35,000 to make, and it was an 81-minute film. Then Dead of Night and Conjoined and Lars cost a small fraction of that. Dead of Night cost me $2,300, Conjoined $1,850, and Lars right around $10,000. And they're better movies than Laughing Boy too. Film was just incredibly expensive, but it also made you respect the craft. That's one thing I'm glad I made that film on film, because you respect the craft more when literally every second is money. Every click you hear in the camera, that's dollars. That's dollars. Now you can just turn your camera on and let it roll until the card fills up, and it really didn't cost you anything except the time spent with the crew. But film was expensive.
Yeah. Like I said, I've recently got the bug for a little bit of video production that I've done, which is it's small potato things, but I recently helped my husband with something, and I storyboarded it. I kind of scripted it out, I filmed him. I kind of directed him, like, no, now say, do this. And I was like, oh my. And then I went back and actually edited it, cut it up, and put it up on, wherever. And I went, okay, that was fun. I really enjoyed that. So I'm getting a little taste of it. So now I'm doing a little stuff on the side. And I'm thinking, yeah, I could really get into this. So I can see what the appeal is.
Be careful, because you're going to get addicted.
Well, I mean, I'm not thinking I'm going to be the next Joe Grissafi or anything. I don't know if I'd get that far into it, but I definitely could see where I could take someone else's vision and help them out, or, by editing or just giving some direction. And I can see why that can be something you want to do for a living. And I don't know that much yet.
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach myself, like Adobe Premiere and whatnot, but it's still that's part of the fun. That's part of the challenge that I like.
It's a lot of fun. Even if you're not making a living at it, it's still a very rewarding process to initiate a production and then to see it through. So you're going to have a good time with it.
Mm-hmm. And what would you give to people who are not like me, but they're more like wanting to be more like you, to do a directing or producing more, maybe, I don't know, like you said, maybe not as their job, but if they want to get into it seriously like you are, what would be your advice?
Keep shooting, keep directing stuff. Even if it's a short film that you're not going to show anybody, keep shooting. And one thing I told at this presentation I gave at Prime Camera the other day, one thing I did emphasize was, if you want people to help you, get out there and help other people. Chances are you're going to make your first couple of films with little or no money, and you're going to need people to help. And if you have the reputation of helping other people, people are more likely to come out and help you. And that's when you're going to start your team building. Some of those people are going to stick around. And when you actually, and as you grow, these people will grow with you. And you'll eventually have that team building, which is so important to what we do. Because sure, I wear a lot of hats when I make these films, but I don't do it all myself. Mm-hmm. It's just not a good idea to do it all yourself. Even Robert Rodriguez doesn't do it all himself anymore. He did El Mariachi pretty much himself, but he has crews now.
And I
also emphasize. He started. No, I thought he was in San Antonio.
Okay, what, Texas?
Or no, he shot El Mariachi in Mexico, actually. And I thought he was from Austin. It was oh gosh, who is it from here? The director, Wes Anderson, is from Houston.
Oh yes, maybe that's what I was thinking of.
But one thing I emphasized at this presentation on Wednesday was your reputation. Your reputation is all you have, and that's what's going to set you apart from a lot of other filmmakers. There's a lot of talented people, but if you have the reputation of being difficult to work with, people aren't going to help you. Mm-hmm. And that's where you got to protect that reputation. If you have a good reputation, more people will want to work with you. You will rise a lot faster, and people are going to refer you if they know you're. No one's going to refer you if they think you're going to be a jerk to the person they want to introduce you to. Mm-hmm. Your reputation precedes you, and I think it's as important as your talent. I personally think, until you become like uber famous, and then you can walk all over everybody until people have had enough. But when you're starting, protect that reputation. Don't be a diva. Don't be a jerk. Don't yell at people. Get out there and help people. If you're on a set and there are experienced people who are talking, if you have a conversation with someone who's experienced, let the experienced person talk. I've been on a lot of sets where young filmmakers hog the conversation, and you can't learn anything by doing all the talking. When you're talking, when you're around experienced directors and crew people, and they're talking to you, let them tell their stories, because you're going to learn from all that. And then, really, most importantly, be patient and persevere and stick with it.
Excellent.
Because it's not going to happen overnight.
That's something
I've been doing
we're
this
learning.
for 23 years now. Yeah, I've been doing this for 23 years or so now. I've still got a lot of work to do.
Well, Joe,
I've still got a long road ahead.
We appreciate you coming on the show tonight. We're heading to the closing part of our show, but
we probably had you on longer than you anticipated. But I think we can blame Jason for that.
And then at this point, we want to make sure that you plug everything. Once again, remind our audience, where they can find you, important things that they need to know to
your projects.
Yeah. So let her rip.
Okay, you can watch Conjoined on Amazon Instant, or even the Kings of Horror YouTube channel, as well as Dead of Night, and Dead of Night is spelled with a K. Lars the Emo Kid we should be announcing a crowdfunding campaign to sell the DVD and Blu-ray release sometime before the end of the year, so that's imminent. The release of Lars the Emo Kid as wide as we can do it, is imminent. If you want to find me, I'm on Facebook as Joe Grissafi, Gris as in Sam, A, F as in Frank, F as in Frank, I. Or also you could look up Starship Films, or just look up the movies by title, and you'll find a page for each one, and you can reach me through there.
Awesome. Well, Joe, we appreciate you coming on tonight, and I'm sure we'll be in touch. As we said before, that when you get done with that other project, The Cabin, with Amanda Diane, we would probably like to have you both come back and just talk about that, and definitely promote it.
I would love to do that.
And
so we will definitely keep you posted.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Send some other people our way, too, if you know they've got some projects they want to get some ears on.
I absolutely will. I've got a couple people in mind now.
We appreciate it.
Well, you've got our digits, so
sure.
Just let us know, and you know how to get a hold of us.
Yeah, and thank you for indulging us.
I will do that. Thank you so much for having me on. I really had a good time.
Well, good, Joe. We appreciate you, too. So have a great evening.
Thank you.
Okay, you too, guys. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ooh. That was interesting. It was like the Joe and Jason hour. I enjoyed that.
Well, what do we have coming up? This is the part where we probably do some house cleaning or keeping or whatever.
As far as we know, we're still on board with Manu and Taremi for is that next week?
Next week.
The 22nd?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't know for sure how long we'll have him for, so I'll have some backup content, but as long as he can give us, that will be great. And then we have, the 29th is the day before Halloween. So that's going to be something more, if it's spooky or, would you call the Romanek story kind of, it's UFO paranormal. I mean,
it's an interesting story, a timely story for this time of the year, and we'll go with that. Plus, I guess I'm going to have to dig through the archives of information that we have on our shows. I'm going to rebroadcast the Hopkinsville, Kentucky incident. I did last year around October, where it's one of my favorite UFO stories about a rural Kentucky community who was, attacked, if you will, by tormented by aliens from outer space, so to speak. It's an interesting story, and I'll go ahead and replay that story on the 29th as well. Also, I just want to remind everybody that we will be at Maker Faire here in Houston at the George R. Brown Center on later, in the mid of November on the 12th
and 13th.
You can still get tickets to that, and when you do, you can use the code Spaceboy, and that'll get you 50% off on those tickets. So if you definitely come, you'll see Spaceboy and Surlana do the show live, and then we'll be roaming around the the facilities, video, and doing interviews and all that good stuff.
That's
and,
a chance to meet us if you want to fly to Houston, go to Maker Faire. We'll be there.
Or if you are in Houston, you can definitely, come here. The nice thing about the George R. Brown Center is they've got the motel is connected to the building. So,
and they're getting another one. They're building another one right now.
So you don't have to really drive. I mean, you just drive to the motel, stay there, and then walk over to the event. And it's pretty shake and bake as far as getting into the event and all that good stuff. But, like I said before, it's more than robots. It's anything that you can imagine and make.
Or create, yes.
Or create in that sense. So, what else, Surlana?
Do you want to go all the way to November 5th? Or?
Well, if you want to go ahead and bring up our November 5th, I don't think we have told anybody yet, but go ahead.
I guess this is going to be another filmmaker, Russ Emanuel, and he's done some interesting work, and he's done some films with some Star Trek people, so that'll be interesting to talk to. That'll be something you will hear pre-recorded, but you'll hear it during the live show.
Yeah, so that should be fun, and definitely tune into that because
that's going to be good too.
It seems like this gentleman has got some great stuff, and hopefully we'll both be able to talk about it, and it won't be a bummer of a show. So, on that magical note, I'm going to run credits. Say goodnight, Surlana.
Good night, Surlana.
Spaceboy Universe is hosted by Spaceboy and Surlana. Executive producer is Surlana. Producer credit goes out to Dennis Koch. Find Spaceboy at spaceboymusic.com and spaceboyuniverse.com. This has been a Spaceboy Universe production. You have reached your final destination. Good night, Space Cadets.